1017 FM, 1510 AM WGKB Waukesha, and W269DL Milwaukee, a locally owned Good Karma brand station.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by Lowe's. Alexia Gibson has built an empire on sea moss and got a big leg up because of ABC's Shark Tank. Gibson started the business because he believed in the health benefits of sea moss. While it was in its early stages, he appeared on Shark Tank and caught the attention of Mark Cuban alongside comedian Kevin Hart. Gibson spoke to Bloomberg about how getting a thumbs up from Cuban was exactly what he was hoping for.
I went there wanting Mark from the beginning, but he technically always invests in technology companies, so I knew with me with a supplement brand, it would have been a stretch, but he came back at the end of the show and nudged Kevin Hart and said, hey, let's do this together. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way I could say no to that.
Today, Gibson serves as president and CEO of the Transformation Factory, which boasts over 20,000 regular sea moss buyers. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Lowe's knows that to win the job, pros need the best prices. That's why only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500 at the Pro Desk. That means you get the prices you need to start any job, small or large. Because Lowe's knows pros. Valid in-store only. More terms and restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms or Pro Desk for details.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What comes to mind when you hear the word gratitude? Maybe it's a daily practice, or maybe it feels hard to be grateful right now. Don't forget to give yourself some thanks by investing in your well-being. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy provider in the world, connecting you to qualified professionals via phone, video, or message chat. Let the gratitude flow. Visit BetterHelp.com/healthieryou today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/healthieryou.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect that of the staff and management of Good Karma Brands, but are the sole responsibility of the host and guests of this particular show.
America may have many, many days, but they will be full of trouble. There will be no rest. There will be no tranquility in this country until the nation comes to terms with our problems.
Bringing you social and political commentary from his mouth to your ears. Breaking down the issues which matter to you.
You are not put here to be a white man's footstool. You are put here to represent the very best in God's word.
Legendary civil rights icon, the Reverend Jesse Jackson in the studio. Reverend Jackson, how are you?
Mr. Sherwin, good morning on this chilly Milwaukee morning.
And I am pleased to have one of the founding members of the Black Panther Party, Chairman Bobby Seale. Mr. Chairman, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
From Mr. Eric Holder. Mr. Holder, so good to see you. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, man. How you been? It's been a long time. Haven't seen you for a while.
The Dr. Cornell West. Dr. West, how are you, sir?
My dear brother, you're so kind, you're so generous, so man, but I salute you and the work that you were doing there. Doing a magnificent job there in Wisconsin.
Stream live on 1017thetruth.com. Call in with your questions or comments. 833-212-1017. Join us on social media at 1017 The Truth. It may not be what you expect to hear, but I will definitely give you what you need to know. Are you ready for the truth?
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Now, live from the American Family Insurance Studio at the Avenue in the heart of downtown Milwaukee, here is Sherwin Hughes.
Good morning. Welcome to what will be, for some, a very uncomfortable and disheartening program, but we're going to provide some information. We're going to elucidate some facts and hopefully give you a much better picture of not only what happened last night, but where we are as a nation, because I can analyze that. The only thing that I'm unclear of is where we are going from here. So between now and January 6, 2025, when the election is certified, and then moving into the inauguration on January 20th, there's going to be a lot of questions, fewer answers, and very little clarity on what the nation is going to look like. Am I stunned? Yes. Am I like completely shocked that I think that it was an impossibility? No. There were two things that transpired last night very early on that I saw as harbingers of what's to come. And they're very minute, granular details. But there's these two very separate things that transpired last night. And I watched the election returns at Mr. B's with some great folks and some listeners of the program. Thank you guys for coming out. It was a late night last night. You might be able to hear it in my voice. But there were two things that were very separate, and they came in at very separate times, these two bits of information. One was a text message I received from someone who lived in a traditionally blue state, and the other was an election return from the state of Georgia, but it wasn't the Atlanta metro area. It wasn't Fulton. It wasn't McCobb. It was something else. There was kind of a harbinger. I was like, oh, man. And I realized at that moment that the Harris campaign missed something. They missed something that they could have gotten out ahead of. But let me be abundantly clear. She was not going to win, ladies and gentlemen. She wasn't going to. And that's what I want to try and provide some clarity on. She didn't run a bad campaign. Not only did she run a textbook campaign for what the Democrats are and should be and what they represent in this moment in time, she held a mirror up to America. America did not like what it saw, and it went with something different. It did not like the reflection in the mirror of all of this diversity coming at it, but it's a bit more complicated than that. America didn't like what it saw in her. She ran a great campaign. She did everything that Hillary Clinton didn't. She learned from the mistakes. She fixated on the battleground states. I mean, hell, she was just talking to Ben and Kerry yesterday. Like, that was her closing message, was basically coming back to Milwaukee for the, umpteenth time. Let's keep in mind, she had her convention in Chicago, but accepted the nomination in Milwaukee. Do you understand how powerful that is? That she divorced herself from the traditionally blue state of Illinois, where the convention was a safe place to have a convention if you're a Democrat. And she said, no, let's go to Milwaukee, go to the Fiserv Forum. Let's sell that out, have a sold out United Center in Chicago. So let's sell out two arenas. And that also was to push back on Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was always fixated on his crowd size. She trolled him, which is kind of like a game within the game, but she trolled him the entire campaign. Like, I'm going to have bigger crowds. And she did. But what she represented was a kind of poetic vision of America that we read about, that we dream about, that we talk about. It's a great land of opportunity and diversity for everybody, where all these different kinds of people can come together and you can have a better life, and you can come as an immigrant, whether you came 120 years ago from Ellis Island or you come from the southern border. You come here, we're a big melting pot, all this diversity, and we all can get along. That is not what this country is. That is the storybook version of America. That does not exist, at least not yet. Now, I cannot be totally accurate in predicting what is going to happen, but we're going to try and work through this stuff based on the information that we receive. But there are two things that I can say almost for certain. Well, three things I can say almost for certain. This was not a policy debate. This was not a policy argument. And the fact that so many people kept pushing Kamala Harris and the Democrats to come up with policy, because here's the thing, they did. People that said, I don't know her policy, she needs more policy, are people that don't even read and understand policy. So that was a trap for her. You know what Donald Trump's policy was? I'm going to cut your taxes. I heard his speech last night. I think it was damn near 2 o'clock in the morning, probably 1:30, 1 o'clock. Now, it wasn't quite a victory speech, but at that point, he had 266 electoral votes, and we were waiting on one state in particular. Yes, it was us. It was Wisconsin to put him over the top, and we are going to discuss that at length. And don't be mad at the people of Wisconsin. Don't be angry. There's something that the Democrats missed, and it was evident to me at about 7:30. When polls started closing in rapid succession, I think at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock our time, something became very, very evident. And I told you that this is when I found out, or when I was paying attention to different things that most voters were not paying attention to, or most Kamala Harris supporters weren't paying attention to, because the optimism hadn't yet faded. By 9 o'clock or 9:30, the optimism was gone. It was out the window. But this was not a policy argument, because the only policy that Donald Trump said, and he stayed true to form, right? Oh, we're gonna cut your taxes. Not the people that are listening to this show, not your taxes. You know whose taxes he's gonna cut. But that was the only policy argument. And stop saying, oh, he's a felon and he is a rapist. He's all of those things, but you can't hold that against him, because what America saw in the mirror was a worse reflection than what Donald Trump offered, even as a convicted criminal, felon, sexual assaulter, a philanderer, a cheat, still never released his taxes. We don't know his medical records. All of those things pale in comparison, because I'll give Donald Trump some credit on this. He sees the real version of what this country is. And it's not a fluke, because when he ran in 2016, he got 13% people of color and as support. That's kind of a misnomer, because people of color could be, a very conservative evangelical Cuban who's been in this country for 2 generations. Last night, he got 20% people of color. 59% of the new registered voters of color voted for Donald Trump. And so I'm at the polling place yesterday, and I told you guys my experience at the polling place, that they would be jubilant when there was a new registered voter, and people would clap, but we have a new registered voter. You guys probably saw it at your polling place. And now when I reflect back on that, because they were all black men. At my polling place at Ward 159 at the Sherwin School on 51st and Burleigh, the amount of time that I was there, which was probably 30 minutes from start to finish, the only new registered voters I saw were black men. And I'm thinking 60% of them, maybe even more, 60% of the new registered voters of color voted for Donald Trump. Those black men probably voted for him. But her campaign was a thing of beauty, because she listened to the people. She listened to Hillary Clinton. She saw the mistakes that Hillary Clinton made. Hillary Clinton abandoned Wisconsin. Remember that? We was mad. Hillary Clinton didn't come here. Hillary Clinton was out in the Sun Belt states. She was over playing in Arizona. She was playing in Nevada. She wasn't in Wisconsin. Kamala Harris was here so much she could have been a Wisconsin resident. But it had nothing to do with that. We just wanted to, our political correctness is very unusual in this country, because we wanted to make it seem like, well, Kamala, if you just do this, if you just don't do what Hillary did, if you just come to Wisconsin, no, Kamala, you need a lot more policy. Give us more policy. Kamala, black men are feeling ignored. Okay, put together a 15-page brief specifically mentioning black men, because Barack Obama never mentioned black men. So Kamala Harris she was listening. She was actually running a Democratic campaign that tried to encompass all of the things that Democrats had screwed up on in the past. So her campaign was excellent, because she listened to different constituency groups. But there was something that's much bigger at play. So 2 things I can say for certain, okay? I'm going to be all over the place today, because there's just so much to unpack. Goodbye to the Palestinian people. You're finished. And I take great pain when I say that. It's over. Donald Trump is going to give a fellow criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, not only full reign, Donald Trump is going to turn his back on the atrocities that will be committed, not just against the Palestinian people, but Palestinian children. There's a section of liberal, progressive, left-leaning voters that were really mad at the atrocities being committed by Israel. Do you know that Donald Trump is going to be, he's not a friend of Israel, he's a friend of Zionism. Zionism is murdering children. So that's number one. I can say that for certain. Goodbye, Palestinian people. And to my lovely Palestinian friends that called Joe Biden a murderer and saying that Kamala Harris was complicit in murder, you ain't seen nothing yet. So goodbye. Ukraine is going to fall to Russia. Europe will be involved in an armed conflict with Russia within the next calendar year. The aid that we are providing to Ukraine to save their fledgling democracy against a nuclear-armed superpower is over. Now, I can't predict that Europe will fall, but it's going to look eerily similar to World War II. African Americans who are jubilant and rejoicing, there's something I want to say to you, and I'm not going be spiteful and mad at you. I'm not going to ask you why you did what you did, but there's a number, and I wanted to dismiss it. I can't dismiss it. There were a number of African Americans that voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, you got to understand this, y'all. He expanded his base everywhere. The MAGA movement increased in size. Donald Trump increased his performance in the boroughs of New York that are overwhelmingly Black, Puerto Rican, Latino, and Asian. That's why he did a rally in Madison Square Garden. The Trump campaign knew some things that the rest of us simply did not want to admit. There was a lust for him, and we wanted to deny it. But there's a particular constituency group that let us down. It wasn't Black men. But what I want Black people to know, and I want you to keep this in mind moving forward, he won in spite of you. The joke is on us. Do you know how easy it is to stifle Black progress? It's easy. They're not concerned. There's not going to be an agenda for Black people at all. And when I say there's not going to be an agenda, we're going to be a minor inconvenience until they decide to completely stifle us. Your health care is going to be gone. Investments in your community is going to be gone. Business investments are going to be gone. The opportunity to get small business loans or forgivable loans for minority businesses, all of that is going to be gone. It's going to be a waste of money. Why would they do that? All the Blacks are going to do is just kill themselves anyway. We're not going to waste any money on them. They don't have a substantial part in the American story that is going to be written by Donald Trump. And if you think that this is just a 4-year deal, J.D. Vance is worse. He's 39 years old, and he will soon be the captain of a burgeoning MAGA movement that expanded. This man won the Electoral College, and he won the popular vote. He won that election, and we need to swallow that whole. But Black people, he won in spite of you. The joke is on us. They wanted to appeal to disaffected, cast aside, downtrodden white men, mostly working class with lower levels of education. If you think that that cohort that Donald Trump was speaking to, especially when he got his endorsement from Joe Rogan, very uncharacteristic for Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan he's a weird political guy. Like, he was a Bernie Sanders supporter. You don't go from being that left, that liberal, that progressive to supporting Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan is the reason why Donald Trump won. There is a constituency group that I can point to, and it's not Black people. Some of us were peeled off because we were impacted by, you know what it was? And I said this on a previous show, the anti-trans stuff. They ran this particular anti-trans ad, I'm not lying to y'all, 30,000 times. They spent $30 million. And the Trump campaign was not nearly as well funded as Kamala's campaign. Not nearly as well funded. But they doubled down on this anti-trans stuff and biological men playing women's sports. It worked. And you know who it worked with? Black men. We just hate that trans stuff. So let me do this. I got people to call. I want to get you guys in. I guess get it off your chest today, but I'm going to try and provide as much logic as I can, because it's not, once we get to the nitty gritty of it, it'll be kind of easy to see like where this country is. First and foremost, this country had a mirror held up to it in which we saw who we are, how bad we treat each other, but then there's some people that love the diversity, some people that love the opportunity, some people that put America on a pedestal because we know that we can be better than this. No, we're not. America doesn't want better. Better is too much. Better requires too much change. Better requires us to think differently. America wants what it's used to. It is someone who keeps going back to a lover that abuses them because you think you don't deserve better. We're so used to putting makeup on our black eye that we adjust to it. We don't want better, because if we want better, then what does that mean for somebody else? What does that mean for somebody that I hate? If we make it better for everybody else, then the people that I want extinguished, like gay folk, like trans folk, like Black folk, y'all need to understand, we have no place in this administration. We can be courted, because a lot of us as Black folks are politically homeless. I know I got to take a break. But we're also easiest to extinguish. So if you bring a couple of Blacks in by talking about some of the things that Black people hate too about America, because we don't like the gays, we don't like the trans people, we don't like a lot of wokeness either for some reason. And we also are gluttons for punishment as black people because we seem to think, oh, we've been through tough times before. Donald Trump can't show us anything we haven't already seen. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, what is coming for the foreseeable future, we have never seen it before. You cannot compare what is going to happen to anything that has ever transpired in American history. This, I assure you. But for some reason, we think that we are really tough. But we're always asking for something as tough as we are. We still want reparations. We still want justice. We still want fairness. Well, you traded that. You traded all that away. We are the easiest people to extinguish. And I was just very careful and cautious about putting that out there because people wouldn't have believed me and then they would have pushed back even harder. Lots to talk about today. I got to make sure I remember these two particular things that I noticed at about 7 o'clock last night. So I'm going to take a break, come back, take some phone calls at 833-212-1017, 833-212-1017, and talk about these two things that I noticed where the writing was on the wall at about 7:30. This was not, oh, we're not going to know for a week. It's going to be a long night. No, not a long night. Short night. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on this Crestfallen day. We'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com. The Milwaukee Panthers hit the road Thursday night as they travel to Iowa to take on the Northern Iowa Panthers.
Jump pass for Polian left of the circle. Tries to answer and does. It's pure. A bomb from KP. He's got 15. Cleared by Calvin. Forecourt holding. He'll lob it up. Noel will send it down.
Scott Warris has the coverage Saturday starting at 6:30 p.m. on 1017 The Truth and the Milwaukee Panthers Sports Network from Learfield. Tip-off happens at 7 o'clock.
What distinguishes Old National Bank from other lenders in helping people buy their first home and furthering their small businesses?
One thing that really makes us stand out is our grants. We have two really big grants right now specifically for first-time home buyers buying in Milwaukee County. The first one is for $15,000. They have to be buying within Milwaukee County and reach certain income limits. And then the second one is for $20,000, and that is through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indiana. We're headquartered in Indiana, as you know, Denise. So that is a second grant, and that is really the highest, most robust grant program throughout the entire southeastern Wisconsin area. So it's it's up to $35,000 essentially that a person could be receiving for their first home. If you are in a position that you're looking to buy your first home throughout Milwaukee County, please give me a call. Please contact me. I'm more than happy to help everybody that I can.
And what's your number, Anna?
Sure.
How can they reach you?
414-978-0283.
The WIAA football playoffs is here. We have a big level 3 matchup this Friday night as the number 1 seeded Marquette Hilltoppers take on the number 2 seeded Bayport Pirates. The football action kicks off at 7 p.m. on 1017 The Truth. Marquette University High School football is presented by Gruber Law Offices and sponsored by Capital Insurance Agency, Magic Productions, Annex Wealth Management, C.G. Schmidt, Left's Lucky Town, Boyle Frederickson Intellectual Property Law, and Marquette University High School.
In our community, you will find a Center for Food Security. You'll discover a Center for Behavioral Health Support, a proven Center for Home Care, a successful Center for Employment, a Center for Trauma Recovery, and more. We are Centers for Independence. Find out how you can support Centers for Independence's work and mission at cfihope.org/independence.
It's 1017 The Truth's Dr. Ken Harris for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Get the look you want for your home with customizable windows and doors from Pella. The durability of materials gets tested tens of thousands of times to ensure they last for years to come. Pella offers custom colors and innovative features like shades between the glass. And right now, celebrate Gina Della's 60th birthday with 0 for 60. Put 0 down, get 0 interest for up to 60 months. Hold your appointment on or before November 8th. Certain restrictions apply. Visit PellaWI.com.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Let's go to Jules. You're on 1017 The Truth. How are you?
I'm well. thank you for taking my call. Obviously, this election can be considered a historic rebuke of the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't remember the last time Democrats lost the popular vote. Obviously, there's a lot of soul-searching going on. People are asking where Dems went wrong and where the Harris campaign went wrong. But what I'm wondering is the fact of the matter is that I think they made the mistake of believing that America was ready for a woman. Turns out it wasn't. I mean, that's the bottom line. It looks like most Americans, men in particular, but including even many American women, are not ready to be led by a woman. Less than a decade after rejecting the last woman who dared to step up and to try to lead this nation, we are apparently still not there yet. Not ready for a woman. If you'll recall, when Biden stepped aside, and there were those in Democratic leadership who were calling for an open primary where Dems would debate who the nominee should be, and not anoint Harris and go with the vice president. And some of that concern was that voters, some of that was out of concern that the voters did not want and would reject a woman, a black woman. And the rest is history. I mean, progress in America is like a swinging pendulum, and it still appears at that watershed moment. And our racial history remains the two terms of Barack Obama. I think that we are still experiencing the backlash from that. The pendulum is still swinging hard, and that direction hasn't swung back yet. But I think that demographics is destiny. By 2045 or so, white Americans will become a racial minority, and I think that maybe then we can start looking at the pendulum swinging back the other way. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that America deserves Donald Trump. What my question to you, I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I mean, as far as recalibrating and what we should do going forward, should we let the voters have spoken? This is democracy. The voters have spoken. Should we, those who have been engaged in the fight for justice, equity, progress for marginalized populations, should we stand back and step aside from that fight, maybe at least temporarily, and let the voters who have what they think they want, what they voted for? I mean, should we resist the legislation that's forthcoming with the largest immigration crackdown in history? Should we fight the cuts to to programs that vulnerable communities count on? Maybe we should let the people have what they think they want for a little while, and maybe we won't have to do all this convincing and persuading after a few years of that. What do you think, Sherwin?
Oh boy, that's a lot to unpack, Jules. I don't even know where I begin. Well, this is certainly what America wanted. We do not want a plural democracy of many different voices. We want to be controlled by what has created this nation in the first place. This nation is just a 21st century version of the original mindset of the founders, that certain people are always supposed to be in control because we are comfortable with it. I do echo your sentiment. Women they're not going to be president of this country for a very long time. Not in this generation.
Wow.
Maybe Gen Z. Wow. Millennials won't even elect a woman. It'll be a very, very long time. And I'm also more concerned about what kind of woman she has to be. If you notice, Kamala Harris had a bunch of history-making endeavors behind her. Didn't matter. She never even brought up the fact. They used to try and goad her, but you're going to make history. You'll be the first woman president. She's like, it's evident that I'm a woman when I walk into a room. Next question, please. Because she knew. That's why when she talked to Carrie and Ben yesterday, like Carrie was very overly optimistic. Like, oh, girl, you got this. Kamala's like, no. Don't say that. I don't have it yet. Not until everybody votes, because Kamala knew being a woman is a liability. Every single poll that they did internally told her she cannot win because she is a woman. So having a woman president is not something that America wants. And there's an important constituency group that really doesn't want a woman president, and we can't beat them because they are the ones that should want a woman president. I think most men like us, we've resigned to the fact that we love women, we respect women, we have been led by women before. Women have given us life, they have given us opportunity, etc. But women don't want a woman. White women did it. Again, I warned y'all. I said those are the ones you got to watch. I got the statistics on white women. 52% of them voted for Donald Trump. They lost their damn reproductive rights. They can be raped and be forced to have a baby. They can die from sepsis in a parking lot. And I'm not being hyperbolic because they have died from sepsis in a parking lot. Yeah. Doesn't matter. They do not want a woman president. Kamala Harris doubled down on reproductive rights. There was something even bigger than that. Women are willing to die, white women in particular, to preserve the patriarchy because they feel that's the only power they can ever have, being next to a disorganized and aggrieved white man. There's no banding together of women. Women don't want to be led by another woman. Now, that's something deep and psychological they're going to have to deal with. But the reason why we won't have a woman president, because a lot of men came around, especially a lot of black men that internally didn't want to vote for a black woman, but they did. But it's white women, the largest constituency and voting bloc in this country are white women. And they said, we got to bring Trump back because he makes us feel safe because he's mean. And he's very abusive. That's what we're used to. Yeah, he's mean and abusive, and he might do a little raping and a little sexual assaulting. Yeah, he's a felon, but I feel safe around him. Women want a beast that they think that they can tame. That's why Beauty and the Beast and like women have these fantasies about vampires and all this other stuff. They want a beast that they think they can contain. It's deep in their psychology, and white women promote that better than anybody else. But Jules, thank you for your call. I actually have to go because I got to take a break, and everybody is calling, but I appreciate you calling me. All right, you're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Ready to glow? RN2 Go Medical Services has you covered. With a top-notch team, including a skilled RN and medical doctor, they offer personalized treatments just for you. Feel fantastic with exceptional post-op care, invigorating IV hydration therapy, and vitamin injections. Enjoy advanced skincare, effective weight loss programs, and beauty enhancements like Botox, fillers, and PDO threads. Rejuvenate with PRP therapy and sculpt your dream body with cutting-edge body sculpting treatments. Why wait? Visit DestinationAestheticsMKE.com now to book your appointment. Your new radiant self is just a click away.
It's time for Truth Takes, a thought-provoking commentary on the new 101.7 The Truth. Here is Telly Hughes with his truth.
I want to stress the importance of a positive mindset. Everything begins as a thought before it ever becomes an action. So it's extremely important to purposely place yourself in positive spaces to help shape and nurture those thoughts. I know you're probably thinking, okay, Telly, let's be realistic. Look, I get it. You may work with people with bad energy, or you may even be related to people who are negative by nature. In this journey called life, there will be many things that come your way that's out of your control. But what you can control is how you respond. Understand this. You have the right to either tap in or tap out of whatever energy that may come your way. And that's how you can control and protect your positive spaces. The mind is where it all starts. And if your thoughts are centered around positivity, you'll see how things begin to transform. You'll see a noticeable difference between things happening for you versus things always happening to you. You begin to grow through situations as opposed to just going through tough situations. Make it a priority to surround yourself with positive people and create those positive spaces and begin to experience the fruits of what a positive mindset can produce. Trust me, it takes work to creating these spaces, and you have to be intentional about it. And I'm committed to putting in the work because I'm living proof that it's well worth the peace a positive mindset brings.
This has been Truth Takes on the new 101.7 The Truth. Listen to Truth Be Told with DT and Telly weekdays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
When you're high, you feel different. Pretty obvious, right? You think different, talk different, but if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
It's Marketplace, Wisconsin, the Governor's Conference on Diverse Business Development. December 11th and 12th at the Baird Center in Milwaukee. Register at marketplacewisconsin.com.
Seriously injured? Make one call. That's all.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Our phone number, I'm sure you know it, is 833-212-1017, 833-212-1017. Let's talk to the caller. You're on 1017 The Truth. How are you?
Hello?
Hello. You're on the air.
Oh, what's going on? This is the town. How you doing,
the
sir?
town. All right. I'm good.
All right. Are you? Because I'm not good. This will BS, like. There's some BS, bro.
It is, but the way that I understand it, it was somewhat, I want to say it was predictable, but I'll be able to navigate through it with the details of what happened. Plus, I was on the air when Trump got elected in 2016, and I tried to send the alarm bells up then. And so it was unusual and weird that he got elected in 2016, but I know one thing about American politics, if something can happen once, it can happen again. So him getting elected again was not entirely out of the question. This time it's going to be dramatically worse, but it was always in the back of my mind that it could happen. He can get reelected.
I'm like this. I'm like, okay, number one, the way she was pushed in, and not because she was pushed in, because I thought that she was better than the rest of the candidates in the Democratic Party, but when you don't have no primary process, you cannot, register more voters. They had that on the other side.
The town, brother, let me be honest with you. She was not going to win no matter what. Had Joe Biden dropped out earlier, had she raised more money, had she gotten more volunteers, had we knocked on more doors, had we made more phone calls, she was not going to beat him this time. We said it was about policy. She gave us policy. Don't bring up the fact that you're a woman, Kamala. Don't bring up the fact that you're going to be making history. She didn't do any of that. She did everything she possibly could right. She was not going to win. This is not going to be an analysis on what she did wrong. She was not going to win. And once we understand that she was never going to win, we can begin to move forward. But if we think she did something wrong, or she should have went to New Hampshire, or she should have went to Missouri, women lost a right, and women still voted for him. So it's not about anything Kamala Harris did. America didn't like the fact that diversity was coming. Because they know it's coming anyway, but they weren't going to vote for it yet.
This election was won in the margins, right?
No.
It was in the margin. Even in the states, what I see, it was
wait till the rest of the wait until the rest of the votes come out. He won by better than 30,000 votes in Wisconsin. He expanded his vote total from 2016 when he won. He got more votes because remember Hillary Clinton won the popular vote and lost the election. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. Donald Trump is going to have a majority in the House of Representatives. Donald Trump is going to have a majority in the U.S. Senate. Donald Trump has the courts. Donald Trump has Elon Musk, which runs one of the most powerful social media companies on the planet. Donald Trump has Fox News, which is one of the most prolific media corporations in the entire world. He won everything. He has every bit of power that you can have as a single human being on planet Earth. This was not in the margin. This was a decisive victory.
Can I say two sentences?
Sure.
Number one, that she went to the American people, and the woman asked her, would you do anything different from a Biden administration? She said no. Obviously, that was the wrong answer. And the way that she said that was wrong, and America took note of that. That has to be unnoted. And also, if you keep putting down saying just because she's a woman, then what do we have to learn? What information do we have to extrapolate to do better next time? We have none if you just say just a woman.
I need you to not be emotional about this and look at that for what this is. Women didn't want a woman. First of all, everybody didn't hear her say that she wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden. Everybody didn't hear her say that. Had nothing to do with it. Even if she would have said, you know what, let me throw Joe Biden under the bus. He's old, he's white, he didn't go far enough on the border. None of that would have mattered. We still thinking about what she didn't do right. This was not about, she did everything right. And if you want to condense her loss down to a single sentence, what you do in American politics is you don't divorce yourself from your source of power. You don't do that. Joe Biden was how she became vice president. She could not divorce herself. Just like Trump supporters never divorced themselves from him. They stuck with him. So she couldn't separate herself. In fact, when Barack Obama ran and won in 2008, and he was pushing for the Affordable Care Act, Democrats in the Senate stayed away from Barack Obama because they thought, oh my God, national health care, that's going to be a terrible thing for us. So they weren't going, they weren't allowing Barack Obama to come to their states. He was not allowed to attend their fundraisers. Barack Obama got the stiff arm from other Democrats. So what happened? The Democrats lost. That's a lesson to be learned in American politics. You do not separate yourself from your party. Had Kamala Harris done a bunch of things different, said she was going to do things different, then it would have upended because now she's a traitor. Kamala, you're ungrateful. You're only there because Joe Biden is the one that selected you. So there's nothing that she could have said. It is bigger than that. But I gotta go. I gotta take another call. Let's talk to Denise. You're on 101.7 The Truth. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Another day in paradise, I guess.
You know, the thing is, I went out and voted because I'm voting for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I know I'm going to be good. You know, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be crazy for the next 4 years, but they're going to get what they get. You know, it's the thing that when they voted for Walker, and he told them exactly what he was going to do, and that was the start of all this craziness, and he did it. He did what he's going to do, and then everybody's, oh, let's recall him. Let's recall him. And it's like, for what? Y'all voted for this crazy thing, and you got what you got. This man, and the people, women, period, a lot of women will not vote for another woman. A lot of white women and black women don't like black women. And if you come with a grain of confidence, they really put hate on you. So her biggest mistake was, number one, being born a woman. Number two was being born a black woman. And with those two things against her, it don't matter. Just like you said, it don't matter what she did. They weren't going to vote for her because she's a black woman. And she's, number one, a woman, and then she's a black woman. So she had two strikes against her going up. But she ran a great race, and I give it to her for what she did. And we just have to live with what we got. And people that says, oh, I wouldn't vote for a woman, well, now you got the crazy man, okay? So got the orange man, let's live with him, okay? You have a great day, and let's keep it moving.
All right. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate your call. From Politico.com, Donald Trump didn't just complete a once unlikely political comeback. He won a resounding victory despite legal jeopardy, the unpopular end of federal abortion rights, and rhetoric that repelled broad segments of the electorate. Kamala Harris lost to Trump in stunning fashion, just as Hillary Clinton, the first woman to be her party's presidential nominee, did in 2016. The former president built a more diverse coalition of voters than any Republican nominee in 2 decades, despite running a racially charged, testosterone-soaked campaign that demonized immigrants. The votes are still being tabulated, but there are 6 takeaways from Trump's victory. For a politician whose first victory was powered almost exclusively by white voters, Trump in this election assembled a remarkably diverse coalition driven by his unique appeal, or perhaps Harris's unique vulnerabilities among men. According to network exit polls, nearly 1 in 5 Trump voters on Tuesday were people of color. In his first election victory in 2016, about 13% of Trump voters were people of color. So he now has 20% people of color. In 2016, he won with 13% people of color. How do you have the campaign that you have that got more disgusting, more vile, more racist, and get an increased share of people of color voting for you? Latino voters, once a reliable bulwark of the Democratic base, continued their recent shift to the right. The 2 major voter surveys, the network exit polls and the Associated Press votecasts, differed on whether Harris won Latinos by 8 points or 15 points, but either way, it was a massive shift from Biden's roughly 30-point win among Hispanic voters 4 years ago. Joe Biden wins Hispanic voters by 30 points 4 years ago. Trump wins them by between 8 and 15. Trump also made inroads with black voters, breaking into double digits after hovering just below 10% in the two previous elections. Trump won 12% and 15% black voters, respectively, in two surveys. The Republicans' gains were especially concentrated with men whom Trump's campaign targeted audaciously. The two surveys don't agree on whether Trump actually won Latino men. One says he won them narrowly. The other says Harris won them narrowly. But Trump also won between 20 and 25% of black men. These gains didn't just propel Trump to victory in the battleground states. They could ultimately result in him being only the second Republican in presidential history since 1992 to win the popular vote, though it will take a couple of weeks to finalize the vote count in blue California to know for sure. For the second time in 3 election cycles, the American public voted against a female Democratic nominee in favor of Donald Trump. Harris, in a break from Hillary Clinton's approach in 2016, did not play up the barrier-breaking nature of her potential presidency. While Clinton leaned in on white pantsuits and breaking a literal glass ceiling at New York's Jarvis Center, Harris sidestepped gender questions altogether. Neither strategy worked. Overall, women broke for Harris, but white women favored Trump. Overall, women broke for Harris, but white women favored Trump. 54% of women in America supported Kamala Harris, according to the TV network's exit polls. Only 26% of women of color supported Trump, but 52% of white women did. This is on y'all. Good luck. You're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com. The Milwaukee Panthers hit the road Thursday night as they travel to Iowa to take on the Northern Iowa Panthers.
Jump pass for Polian left of the circle. Tries to answer and does. It's pure. A bomb from KP. He's got 15. Cleared by Calvin. Forecourt holding. He'll lob it up. Noel will send it down.
Scott Warris has the coverage Saturday starting at 6:30 p.m. on 1017 The Truth and the Milwaukee Panthers Sports Network from Learfield. Tip-off happens at 7 o'clock.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596. Or visit www.kwwf.org.
In our community, you will find a Center for Food Security. You'll discover a Center for Behavioral Health Support, a proven Center for Home Care, a successful Center for Employment, a Center for Trauma Recovery, and more. We are Centers for Independence. Find out how you can support Centers for Independence's work and mission at cfihope.org/independence.
At UW Credit Union, our home loans have everything you need for your next big step, including up to $750 off closing costs for all home buyers. And first-time buyers can save even more. So if you're ready to trade roomies for more room, or your townhome for an out-of-town home, UW Credit Union will be with you from start to furnished. UW Credit Union. Apply online today. Equal housing lender. Credit may be limited as required by program. Visit uwcu.org for details.
It's 1017 The Truth's Dr. Ken Harris for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Get the look you want for your home with customizable windows and doors from Pella. The durability of materials gets tested tens of thousands of times to ensure they last for years to come. Pella offers custom colors and innovative features like shades between the glass. And right now, celebrate Gina Della's 60th birthday with 0 for 60. Put 0 down, get 0 interest for up to 60 months. Hold your appointment on or before November 8th. Certain restrictions apply. Visit PellaWI.com.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Welcome back to the program. Overall, women broke for Harris. Let me be specific. Women of color broke for Kamala Harris, but white women favor Trump. 54% of women supported Kamala Harris, according to the TV network's exit polls. Only 26% of women of color supported Trump, but 52% of white women did. Democrats maintain that the overturning of Roe versus Wade would motivate women to get to the polls. The party had overperformed polling in every election since the Supreme Court's 2022 Dobbs ruling overturning the federal protections for abortion until last night. Harris made reproductive freedom a central pillar of her campaign, highlighting on the Democratic National Convention stage and in ads the harrowing stories of women whose health care choices have been limited by new state abortion bans. In the weeks to follow, operatives will be looking for clues in the data about whether they over-relied on the issue of abortion, whether the country has grown desensitized to it, or if its political potency was simply neutralized by Trump or rendered secondary to economic concerns. So that is the primary reason why Donald Trump overperformed, because the Democratic campaign doubled down on women's reproductive freedom. And everybody got desensitized to it, and particularly men. So at 7:30 last night, I noticed on the Steve Kornacki, who's rarely perplexed by data. He's the MSNBC data wonk. And he was like, oh, this is unusual. As returns were starting to come in from Georgia, the first places returns were coming in Georgia, because Georgia was a big deal, right? Had she won Georgia, then it would have looked better for her in the earlier portions of the evening. But Steve Kornacki noticed something really early on, because rural Georgia, like little small populated towns and, little hamlets, little small cities in northern rural Georgia. Think Marjorie Taylor Greene's district in Georgia. Steve Kornacki was like, wait a minute, Trump is overperforming in rural Georgia, overperforming 2016. How is he overperforming in 2024, his victory in 2016? I was like, oh, crap, this ain't good. Those rural voters don't like the trans stuff, they don't like the woke stuff, and they got scared to death over the immigration and the border policies. So overperforming with rural voters was going to be this warning of what was to come. Here's the other thing. I figured out why a lot of people didn't vote. If you live in a blue state like California, no matter what, your state is going to be blue. Listen to me. No matter what. Do you know how many millions of people that live in traditionally blue states that simply don't vote? They don't vote at all, because it is the Electoral College, not the popular vote. They don't vote. You know how many people, and this is who my friend Sam, who lives in Chicago, sent me a message last night. She's like, I really wish I wouldn't have moved to Illinois from Wisconsin. I was like, well, why is that? She was like, my vote doesn't count here. Illinois is a blue state. And I thought about that for a second. Do you know how many people do not need to burden themselves with voting? If you're already a Democrat, you got a Democratic county executive, you live in a Democratic city, maybe you have a Democratic governor, your state is going to be blue in presidential elections, so you don't need to vote at all. Even if a bunch of people in those blue states don't vote, it's still going to be blue. Do you know it's probably 30 or 40 million votes that don't get cast because people live in states that are so blue, their vote doesn't matter. Now imagine if 30 or 40 million people that live in your Oregons, your Washington states, your Californias, your Illinois, your New York. Imagine if you put those people in battleground states. If you put those people in the traditionally blue states, put them in Michigan, see what happens. Put them in Ohio, see what happens. Put them in Pennsylvania, see what happens. Put them in Wisconsin and see what happens. Put them in Nevada and see what happens. So this also is the last vestige of the Electoral College. If we go to an all-popular vote system where winner takes all like we do in our other direct Democratic elections, Democrats will actually win. But the number of people that stay home, Republicans didn't stay home. They maximized their vote total because they know that they have to. Democrats don't, because so many of us live in deep blue states. Millions, tens of millions of Democrats don't vote. If California voted at the same percentage as the rest of the nation, or if California voted at like 70%, 75% of their registered eligible voters, it'd be Democrats would win every single presidential election from henceforth. That's why they're resistant to going to a popular vote, even though they know that is the best representation of democracy. Now, with the Electoral College, podunk states like Wisconsin become important. If we went to an all direct democracy popular vote, which eventually we'll get there, let me tell you what, we won't get a woman president until we go to direct democracy and go to a popular vote. How's that? It will not happen with the Electoral College. It simply will not. Women are going to start like deciding not to run for higher office, quite honestly, because this is going to be so disappointing to them. Where the opposite would be true if Kamala Harris was successful. There'd be a flurry, a rush of women that would be running for political office. I've got calls on hold. I also have a break that I need to take in 20 seconds. I'm going to do a much better job of getting to your calls in an hour or two. But I also want to try and shed some light on what may be coming our way. Imagine having Robert Kennedy Jr. leading the Department of Health and Human Services, an anti-vaxxer that thinks that fluoride should be taken out of the water. And imagine Herschel Walker being in the Department of Defense, leading America's missile defense system. Oh, there's so much fun to be had in America. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be back for hour two.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Truth Nation, Gruber Law Offices, and The Truth have raised the stakes for this year. The One Call That's All Gruber Cash Giveaway is now a $5K giveaway. Yes, you heard it right. $5,000 giveaway. Every weekday on 1017 The Truth, you will have the chance to be entered to win the $5K giveaway. Listen to The Truth for the One Call That's All cue to call for your chance to win $5,000. Gruber Law Offices, One Call That's All. Visit 1017thetruth.com for official contest rules.
It started with a prediction.
We'll go out there and play basketball and win. And how many games? 6.
It became the culture.
Chance of Bucks in 6.
Being a Bucks fan means you live and breathe Bucks in 6. Brandon Jennings created the prophecy. Tune into Behind the Bucks, the story of Brandon Jennings on the Bucks Plus audio network. Behind the Bucks is presented by Gallagher, your trusted insurance broker and HR and benefits consultant. Available now on bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, and streaming wherever you get your podcasts.
That's for the culture.
Truth Nation, let us take a second to brag for a moment. There is no other station in the country where you get a front row seat to hear from some of the biggest names in politics, pop culture, and sports. People like President Joe Biden.
Black child poverty was cut in half in 2021. We built black wealth, 15 million jobs nationwide, more than 2.5 million for black Americans. Black wealth is up 60% since the pandemic.
Former President Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump.
Guys, we almost had a former president and very likely future president assassinated on live TV. Like, you know what that would have done for this country? You know what that would have made our country look like? We would look like a banana republic.
And Brewers all-star and former National League MVP Christian Yelich.
Listen, you already know.
Yeah, we got we were just in LA, so we heard our fair share of Kendrick out there in LA. Dodger Stadium has one of the best sound systems in baseball too.
Tap into the award-winning and nationally recognized 1017 The Truth by downloading the Truth app, listening live on 1017thetruth.com, and streaming us live at 1017 The Truth on YouTube.
One smile is great, but one smile in a community of smiles is so much better. A smile has a secret power that most people don't know about. A smile multiplies. It spreads from one person to the next, stretching across entire groups of people. Smile Train knows this and is proud to be creating a wave of smiles across the cleft lip and palate community in over 70 countries. Patients, doctors, advocates, fundraisers. Collectively, our smiles are a celebration of the transformed lives of over 1.5 million children. Learn how Smile Train is helping the cleft lip and palate community at smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
Breaking news, weather, entertainment, and sports. We have it all here. This is 101.7 FM, 1510 AM WGKB Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, a locally owned Good Karma brand station. This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Welcome to Hour 2 of The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. Our phone number is 833-212-1017, 833-212-1017. I'm going to get to the calls in just a second. I have made mention on previous programs, whenever it's convenient, to elucidate a particular point, to shed light on something, that when you adjust for all other causes of death, cancer, stroke, heart attack, heart disease, all of the causes of death, accidents, car accidents, all of the things, mishaps at work, all the causes of death. If you adjust for all of those, the number one killer of women is men. We as men kill women. We do. A lot of times it's intentional. Okay? If the number one cause of death of women, when you adjust for all other causes, okay, is men, we're not going to vote for you. And until we remedy that statistic, and I do not know how we do it, we're not going to vote for you. And because that statistic exists, now obviously all women are not going to be killed by men, but a lot are. There is a fear that exists that is innate in women. And instead of running from that fear and voting for other women, women are not going to run to the same species that's also vulnerable. Women want to run to the power because maybe if we stay close to the men and if we support the men, maybe they'll kill us less. No, we won't. Then isn't that twisted? But that's what American politics is. So stop saying Kamala Harris didn't run a good campaign when the number one killer, adjusted for all other causes of death, killer of women, is men. Women, even the strong ones, are petrified of us. So scared of us that they're afraid to not support us because we may kill them more. Let's talk to Lucci Mob around 101.7 The Truth. Turn your radio off, please.
Oh, yeah, my bad. How you doing, Sharon?
I'm hanging in there. Ain't my first rodeo.
Yeah, I was... one thing I was trying to say was, it was crazy that you said the white women turned out for Donald Trump. When you think about slavery days, the white women always had a problem with blacks because the white men would go out and rape our kind and bring the babies in sometimes.
That's right.
So for many years, the prejudice came from the white woman teaching their kids to hate. Another thing I wanted to say real fast, I really think that she was a sacrifice situation as far as they threw her in at the last minute kind of, and then it kind of like, look who she had endorsing them. I didn't understand why she had Cardi B and then on stage with all them white people and had somebody talking about a moose nut. Gorilla on there talking about a moose nut on the stage, it was kind of weird. Like she could have had Angela Bassett. It was so many more powerful women that she could have put on to endorse and had to talk. Cardi B couldn't even read the damn prompter right. She was stuttering so much because she wasn't right. Another thing was, to me, she should have told all the SSI people to get out and vote. A lot of these people that get checks didn't get out and vote. My cousin, all them get checks. None of them voted. I know a couple of older people that get SSI. None of them came out and voted. I believe if she would have said, this man going to cut y'all check off with this Project 25, I believe they would have got out and she would have had a better resolve. But I really feel she didn't have enough time. But every time I see that he run, they put him against a woman. And like the man said, we're not ready for that. I love you, Sherwin.
Thank you.
You know you for the young crowd. We're here for you.
Appreciate you. All right, thank you, guys. Y'all going to have to be the next generation of leaders because this current generation is screwing it up. I got another story I want to read to y'all because I want to make sure that when we're done with this program today, you have a much better understanding. Like, I think we're still being too optimistic. Like, oh, she could have done this. Had she told those people that are getting those checks that your checks are going to get cut off, their checks are always threatened and they still ain't going to vote. People that get like benefits that they qualify for, don't ever think those benefits are going to go away because there's so many other things in their lives that are hard. They focus on the harder thing. Like, the benefits are always going to be there. They're always going to get a check. They're always going to find a way to come into some money some kind of way. They're always going to get an earned income tax credit check. So you can't scare somebody into voting because, oh, you might lose some of your benefits. That's not enough of motivation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be abundantly clear. There's nothing that Kamala Harris could have done in order to win this race. Nothing. White women made it. When you were talking about reproductive freedoms and taking away a constitutionally protected right, that white women lost more than anybody else. The whole overturning Roe or sending Roe back to the states with the Dobbs decision was aimed at white women. Like, hey, white women need to stop having abortions because the white population is going down and we need to have as many white babies as we possibly can. White women are like, oh, wow, you're totally right. And some of us are probably going to die in the parking lot and get sepsis because we need to have a DNC, and the DNC, we can't have it because some doctors are afraid of being tried in criminal court. Like, oh, we're going to support Trump anyway because we're afraid of him. He makes us feel safe. We feel protected because, you know, men kill us. So let's give support to a man and maybe they'll kill us less. Maybe they'll finally love us. We're just going to vote for them. We're going to support them and we're going to hope for the best, or they're going to heavily rely on prayer. Prayer got us here, by the way, just an FYI, just so we're clear on that. White women said, no, we don't care what was taken away from us. We've lost worse. It's fine. No, it's fine. Whole house is burning around white women right now. No. It's just a little warm in here. It's just warm. I'll just put on some shorts and a t-shirt. No, it's warm. That's fire actually burning. It's not. Shut up, Sherwin. You're being so dramatic. There was nothing Kamala Harris could have done. And so, to your point, Lucci, why did Kamala Harris have all these rappers and do all these DJs at the polls? And why did she appeal to the culture? Because if she didn't, we would have accused her of not. You understand that? How we are impossible to please. Had Kamala Harris said, I don't want rappers performing with me. I don't want to appeal to the youth culture. I don't want to meet people where they're at. No way, I'm not doing any of that. That's amateurish. No, I want to appeal to older voters that really care about, air quotes, policy. Younger people would have justified staying home by saying what? Well, she didn't bring artists that we like on stage with her. She ain't trying to relate to us. Kamala Harris did what she thought and what she was told was in the best interest of young voters in this country. Let me let you in on a little secret I probably shouldn't let you in on. Benjamin, don't be mad at me, brother. I love you. I love you, Benjamin. You are the soul and the consciousness of 101.7 The Truth. Benjamin, I am inspired by your optimism every single day. I suppose I can say this now because the campaign is very much over. About shortly after Kamala got in the race, she was only in for 110, 108 days. So I don't know, maybe not even 30 days in. Do you guys wonder why we got so much traction here at 101.7 The Truth? We got all the big interviews. We got all sorts of people. I'll never speak with Roland Martin again, just FYI. But we got a lot of traction here, right? We had an off-the-record meeting with some high-level officials in the Wisconsin campaign because they wanted to make sure that Wisconsin didn't feel neglected because Hillary Clinton lost in part because she neglected Wisconsin. Now that we think about it with the information we know now, Hillary Clinton lost because she was a woman. So her ignoring Wisconsin was just an excuse that people gave to not vote for a woman. We're always going to look for an excuse to not vote for a woman because it's politically incorrect to say that because people have mamas and wives and sisters. Men can't say outright, I don't want to vote for a woman because I kind of hate women and I'd rather kill them than respect them. Men are never going to say that. They're going to look at the deficiencies of the woman and say that's why she lost. So anybody telling you, oh, Kamala Harris, had she just done this, Kamala Harris would need a penis, a mustache, and a beard and be named Cam. Like be a man. That's the only way she could have won if she was not a woman. So we had a meeting with some high-level officials in the campaign, okay? And they basically asked, what do you need? What does the African-American population need? And it makes sense to sit and talk to us because we talk to black people literally every day. The hundreds or thousands of hours that we hosts and producers at 101.7 The Truth have talked to African Americans makes us in a very privileged position to hear from a variety of different voices, from Tori's show, Dr. Ken's show, my show, Denise and Telly, Benjamin, and Kerry. So they sat us down in a conference room. Here, we had the meeting here. Like, hey, what do you guys need? And Ben was like, we need stuff for the culture. We need to bring younger black voters in to feel like that they're not being heard, that they're not seen. Speak to young black voters where they're at. We need more music. We need more culture. And I just sat back and just let Ben do his thing because I know what I need from a campaign. I need them to be decent, to be honest, to be transparent, and to talk about how they're going to lead and how they're going to govern. But if Benjamin, who represents a younger cohort of voters, says, hey, this is what would be interesting, enticing, and exciting, and it would make Kamala Harris seem a little bit more like youth-facing. Because Joe Biden is old, right? So you got to provide contrast to Joe Biden because Joe Biden is old. He messed up at the debate, right? He's just such a contrast to what Kamala Harris is. So Kamala Harris was told, double down on what you are, Kamala. Double down on the fact that you're a woman by talking about reproductive rights. Double down on the fact that you are black. You went to an HBCU, and there are hip-hop artists that are naturally supporting you. So bring them on stage. Have a party. Be a joyful warrior, Kamala. She was like, cool. Okay, if that's what the people want, because had she not been intentional in trying to engage the younger cohort of hip-hop culture, they would have, first of all, they would have stayed home. They stayed home anyway, I think. But they would have said, well, we didn't vote for her because she didn't have any of our artists like Cardi B and the Moose Knuckle lady on stage with her. Kamala lost because she was a woman, and white women voted in a majority for Donald Trump. White women in this country. Get this in your heads and stop trying to paint a rosier picture of America than what actually exists. White women chose Donald Trump. They were targeted intentionally with the Dobbs decision. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. Let's talk to Bob. You're on 101.7 The Truth. Make it quick, Bob. I got 4 people on hold.
Okay, Sherwin. American people made a mistake, and it's okay if you feel like you're enthusiastic, you really hoped, because Vice President Harris had common sense. I couldn't believe I would vote for a man that said, your vice president is getting hung, and they told him, and he said, so what? COVID made light of it, and thousands died. Could I vote for a man like that? No way. So Phil, and she ran an excellent campaign, the best she could. She had common sense. And so you shouldn't feel that, and I wanted to say something else, but let me get the other 4 callers in, like you said, make it short.
Bob, America did not make, there was no mistake. This was not a mistake. This was very much intentional. Not only was this intentional, his victory, because they gave him the Senate too, his victory was very much on purpose and intentional. This was not a oops. 2016 was an oops. We saw what we got with him, okay? Then America, knowing what we got and knowing that we would get worse, because Donald Trump did get worse. He got more angry. He got more aggressive. He got more vindictive. He talked less about policy. He talked more about revenge, right? And he won with a larger margin. That was not an accident. It was intentional and on purpose. So America didn't make a mistake. America was clear-headed and level-headed when they made that decision.
I would talk to you. I'm going to let the other 4 callers in. I had something else to say, and it was very important, but I'll call later.
All right.
Next tomorrow. So I'll talk to you.
All right then, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, this was not a fluke or a mistake. 2016, maybe. 2024, very much intentional. Let's talk to Steed. You're on 101.7 The Truth. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm not doing so well this morning, man. I think we share the same sentiments. We have to get out of this whole thing of blaming the victim kind of thing, man. She ran an excellent race for 107 days where she had. You know what? I go back. I said this to you before, Sherwin. I know 4 individual black men who spoke of voting for Trump, and they didn't know each other. I knew them all. And one thing they had in common was they had issues with their mothers. And I'm going to keep saying it because that's the first black woman they see. So the issue wasn't voting for Trump. The issue was not voting for Madam Vice President Harris. For some reason, we have a problem. America has a problem valuing women. And now we have a problem valuing our black women for some reason. I don't know, and they said, well, there's no other woman There's women that's running countries right now. What are you talking about? The world is prepared for that. What are you talking about? She'll do a wonderful job. But we got a problem. The white woman is the first lady that they see when they're born into this world. So if that mother let them down, they don't have too much value for a black woman. And we got to change that whole mindset, man. As black men, we have to, man. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your call. So I think when it's all said and done, probably 75, 80% of eligible of black male voters. I'm not going to get into that eligible and registered because some eligible registered voters didn't vote. 75, 80% of black men voted for Kamala Harris, okay? Had she maximized that, got in like the 90th percentile, Kamala Harris still would have lost. Let me do you one better. I would say the majority of the black men here at 1017 The Truth, the majority of us either didn't vote or voted for Trump. And that's, no shade. I mean, she's lost because she's a woman. But that's just kind of shedding some light on things. The majority of black men here are close to it. Either didn't vote or voted for Donald Trump. All right, what do I got here? I got so much stuff just going all over the place. Why don't we do this? I got to send some people to the quiet place on the YouTube chat, which I have been neglecting because I got so much information I need to get out. Brian, you hang on. I'm going to take a break. I'll come back to you. We're listening to the Crestfallen edition of 1017 The Truth, trying to provide some understanding and some clarity, which we're going to need moving forward because you've never seen a storm like this. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not trying to scare anybody. And the reason why it's going to be a storm is because we don't know how to prepare for what a hell-bent on revenge, aggrieved Donald Trump is going to do. Because here's the thing. The Supreme Court said, Donald, do whatever you want. Your most wild and grotesque ideas and fantasies are not just legitimate, sir. They are legal, and we will protect you. Trump has the Senate. Trump might have the House. I'm holding out on that, but there's still a lot of votes to be counted. He has Fox News. He's going to have them more than ever. He has Elon Musk, an autistic billionaire that controls one of the biggest social media companies on the planet. And he has the sentiment of, 80 million people in this country. So we can't prepare for this because none of us have ever lived through anything like this. Like other countries that have tried democracy, you always get a dictator because what democracies do is they fertilize the soil for authoritarianism. And our soil has been fertilized and Donald Trump sprouted from it. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
The Truth app is home for all the Milwaukee Panther content you would want.
He'll dart baseline, and he will tomahawk it home with his right hand.
From conversations on the airwaves.
We're going to defend every board up the floor and every bounce and every pass. And we've got good depth, and you have to have good depth for the way we play.
To game highlights.
At the top, rises for three over Young and buries it.
Find The Roar on the Truth app, Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts to keep up with Panthers hoops. This is your Planned Parenthood Advocates of Wisconsin Minute.
Reproductive justice is a framework, it's a movement, it's a vision for reproductive freedom. It's a right to have a child. It's a right to not have children. And this next part is really as important as the other parts. It's the right to birth and parent our children with dignity, and the right to live and parent our children in safe and healthy environments. So reproductive justice understands the ability of any person to control their destiny is directly related to the conditions of their communities. It looks at the intersections of discrimination in social, political, and economic systems, and it sheds lights on the barriers that these systems produce. And then we, reproductive justice advocates, fight against the barriers that prevent Black people and other people of color from exercising their rights. That's reproductive justice.
This has been your Planned Parenthood Advocates of Wisconsin Minute.
Associated Bank knows your small business isn't just a venture. It's your dream and a vital part of the community. And we're not just a bank. We're your neighbors. We're looking out for you. That's why Associated Bank offers quick online applications and approvals with funding in as fast as one business day, checking with no minimum balances or maintenance fees, and prompt customer service. Explore our products at associatedbank.com/business or visit a branch for more details. Subject to credit approval. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The WIAA football playoffs is here. We have a big level 3 matchup this Friday night as the number 1 seeded Marquette Hilltoppers take on the number 2 seeded Bayport Pirates. The football action kicks off at 7 p.m. on 101.7 The Truth. Marquette University High School football is presented by Gruber Law Offices and sponsored by Capital Insurance Agency, Magic Productions, Annex Wealth Management, C.G. Schmidt, Leff's Lucky Town, Boyle Frederickson Intellectual Property Law, and Marquette University High School.
Sharon needed legal help. She needed Gruber Law Offices.
When I think about Gruber Law Office, I think about how they took care of me, how they make sure that you get what you're supposed to get. Gruber Law Office. One call, that's all. I will always trust one call, that's all.
Injured? Call Gruber Law Offices today. One call, that's all.
They are the best. I'm very happy.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 101.7thetruth.com.
Let's talk to Brian. You're on 101.7 The Truth. Well, there you go, Brian. Congratulations to you. You didn't want electric cars, so you're not going to have to worry about buying an electric car.
Not for 2 years, anyway.
Oh, it'll be a lot longer than that. So, to your point, Brian, this morning when the stock market opened, because I was heavily invested in battery-operated vehicles, lithium mining, because lithium is a part of manufacturing battery-operated vehicles, and heavily invested in electric cars. Dumped all my shares this morning. Dumped them all. I'm cash rich in my brokerage. Oh, it is, because they were tanking, because the market wanted Trump. The market got it. In fact, the DJT stock, the Donald Trump Media Company stock, I haven't checked it, but I heard it's through the roof. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, one thing I want to say about Kamala, she'll be back in 4 years.
No, she won't.
And
no, she won't.
Well, I would hope so.
No,
I would hope so.
I would tell her not to. She would not win. That would be dumb for her to run again. The Democrats need to run a man who is aggrieved, who is angry, who is anti-trans and anti-immigrant. Until we get to the popular vote, Brian, a woman is not going to win. If some kind of way the Republicans say, oh, maybe we should go to direct democracy and make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states and give them the popular vote too, a woman is not going to win. Not for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, she did run a very good campaign, and there was purity in those eyes. I kept saying there's nothing but purity in that woman, irregardless of her sadistic genealogy. That woman.
Explain that. I'm curious.
For her.
Hold on, Brian. I'm curious why you said her sadistic genealogy. Explain that.
Well, I watched the Candace Owens documentary talking about everybody in her past, what they did, where they came from, basically her prior family structure. And I used to try to get on the side of her father, but I found out that her father was an Uncle Ruckus type. So to me, for what she was trying to do was pure. She, even though her lineage was bad, put it that way. I could say some other choice words. She turned away from that, and that's possibly why her father didn't like her. So for a woman to do that and want to put out what she put out, I just have to give her. I mean, I'm a conservative through and through, but I voted for her regardless because of what I saw her, the way she ran her campaign. There was no faking in her. There was no. I fell for her. And if she would have won, I knew she probably would have would have rejected the Green New Deal. She probably would have rejected some of the over-the-top trans stuff.
And why did you vote for it, Brian? Which I don't entirely believe, but what? Because you seem to be against everything that, like, her entire existence. So why would you waste your vote and vote for her?
No, because sometimes you can turn away from your prior existence, and you can do the right thing. And what I saw in her was a woman that was trying to do the right thing. That's what I saw in her.
But you hate her existence?
No. I'm talking about where she came from. I have a problem with the type of people that brought her. I have a problem with the type of people that did certain things in her family prior to her.
And you're blaming that on her. So how she came to be the woman that she is, you hate all of those things.
If I blame that on her, I wouldn't have voted for her. If I blame that on her, I wouldn't have voted for her. I saw something in her eyes of purity and honesty, and I fell for it. Yeah, I fell for it and voted for her.
Wow,
yeah, I fell for it and voted for her.
I bet you regret that. I bet you wish you would have made your vote count. Oh, okay.
That's why I know this is the last. This is just the last hurrah for old white folks. Trump got back in office because this is the last hurrah for us older folks. That's all it is. And it's a pause. It's a return to some semblance of our past, some semblance of normalcy. But this is our last hurrah.
Hold on, Brian. Whose last hurrah?
White folks, older white men, older black men.
So older black men, you're already counted out because in the grand scheme of things, we are incredibly insignificant. We're maybe 4% of the electorate, so we, in the grand scheme, don't really matter. Older white men are going to be replaced by younger white men who are even more elegant in their racism. J.D. Vance is 39 years old. So Donald Trump is gone, but do you think that Donald Trump's sentiment leaves with him? No, it does not. They already have their next generation in line with your Vivek Ramaswamys and a whole bunch of other folks. Here's another thing that's going to happen. Be on the lookout for this. Clarence Thomas is probably going to retire from the Supreme Court, and they're going to replace him with a justice who is worse and more conservative than the ones that Donald Trump put on during his first term, and they're going to be in their 30s. In fact, another justice may retire as well and be replaced with somebody even more conservative. That is when us black people, we are going to be in trouble because all they need to do is return Plessy versus Ferguson back to the states, and all they need to do is make states responsible for handling discrimination, and your black ass is cooked. And no one is going to care because we're insignificant. So I'm not asking you to react to that emotionally. It's coming because Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won as a joke on black people. The joke is literally on us. And black women are much more likely to die because of not having reproductive health care, which 1 in 3 women live in one of those states anyway. So the joke is literally on us. We are about to get extinguished. But here's what's crazy. We did it to ourselves in part. So
you can change it, though.
No, not for a while. Oh, not for a while.
We can repopulate. Black folks need to be reproducing in abundance, just like Mexicans do.
And who's going to take care of them damn kids when we live in poverty? Who's going to hire us, Brian? How are we going to get into colleges and universities so we can have the specialized education to deal with a competitive and sophisticated world when they overturn affirmative action? You live on another planet. And I'm not trying to be like down on you, but if you think that the answer is having more black kids, that's just more of us that they can kill, discriminate, and incarcerate on. Okay, thanks, Brian. I don't even know why I took his call. Let's talk to... Y'all are still disillusioned about this. All right, well, you'll find out. We'll start knowing and seeing the signs probably in the next 6 months. The caller, you're on 1017 The Truth. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good for today being today. I think today is just what you said. When someone tells you what they want to be, which is a dictator, and in my opinion... he said he's never going to leave the White House at some point, right?
Yes.
At one of his rallies, did he say that?
But that's the least of our concerns.
Well, that's how monarchies are created. And if he has the power that we're speaking of, and a Supreme Court that will support that, and we were talking about the end of democracy just yesterday, this could become a monarchy / fascist dictator society. And what I thought about today is him passing the torch to one of his children, just like other kings did.
Well, J.D. Vance, I don't think he trusts his kids enough. But J.D. Vance is going to be worse.
I'm not thinking of the adults. I'm thinking of the one who looks just like him, who he probably likes a lot more than his other two sons. So what if he decides he's going to stay in office to this young man? He's, 15 now?
Oh, Barron?
So he's an adult and decides...
Trump can't stay in office for 20 more years. Trump is going to be 98 years old.
But if he changes the law where you don't have to be 35 because he can do anything he wants. He can make this young man a boy king.
They're not going to overlook. They're going to give J.D. Vance is going to be rewarded for his loyalty. So don't skip over because they already have a line of succession that is going to work. And J.D. Vance depends on who the Democrats put up. J.D. Vance is going to get elected to 2 terms. So we're going to be in this for a minute. And I say we're going to be in it for a minute because the MAGA movement has expanded. Like, he did better in Brooklyn. Trump did better in the Bronx. Trump did better in Manhattan and Staten Island, places where he never should have improved his vote share. The MAGA movement has expanded enough to where J.D. Vance is going to get his 2 terms. And then we'll look to see who America produces after that. But he's not doing this for his kids because Trump doesn't even really like his kids like that.
I'm thinking in the terms of him doing exactly what he said, being like Hitler and disallowing any elections. There will be no more terms. He runs it and passes it on to who he sees fit. And maybe it will be J.D. Vance, or maybe it will be his 19-year-old son when he's 83. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
I'm imagining things that, maybe we couldn't comprehend yesterday that are possible because, we probably 4 years ago would have never thought that a rapist and a 34-time convicted felon would be elected president. So, in my opinion, everything is on the table, including the monarchy that we claim to be fighting against during the Revolutionary War.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you for your call. All right. This one is from Slate. The 2024 election, perhaps more than any other in history, was an election of identity politics. But unlike what the term usually implies, that we're talking about women and or racial minorities, this race was about a particular kind of masculine identity that increasingly crosses racial lines and imperils women and men alike. Donald Trump's strategy of courting disaffected men was, in fact, a risky one. After all, men are less likely than women to vote, and the disaffected don't tend to be the most civically engaged citizens. With this election being the first since the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision allowed Republican-run states across the nation to criminalize abortion, liberals and feminists understandably believed that it would be a referendum on misogyny, and it was. The problem is that it turns out the United States is pretty damn sexist, and a lot of men wanted this election to be about them. Their votes for Trump weren't about just the economy or crime or immigration. Their votes were about reasserting their dominance as men. Sexism, of course, doesn't explain everything about this election. Many voters genuinely frustrated with the high costs of housing and groceries and remember lower interest rates and cheaper gas under Trump. Many genuinely do see undocumented immigration as out of control, overwhelming the fragile support systems in their cities and contributing to the kind of low-level disorder and dysfunction they find increasingly intolerable. Plenty of women voted for Donald Trump, including, if exit polls are to be believed, close to half of white women compared with 2020 and 2016. It looks as if more Latinas voted for Trump this year, too, even as upward of 60% cast their ballots for Harris. But as in 2016, Trump's 2024 victory was largely male, and largely a male one and largely a white one. This time, though, he peeled off more men of color. For the first time, a majority of Latino men voted Republican. Trump's support among white men and his overwhelming support among white men without college degrees held steady. As in 2020, roughly 20% of black men voted for him. In 2016, that number was less than 15%. The one group that moved significantly away from Trump is white college-graduated women. This demographic never backed Trump en masse, but nearly 60% of them voted for Kamala Harris, compared with 51% who backed Hillary Clinton. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. We'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
As a bull rider, I prefer to do things single-handedly. That's why I love the UW Credit Union app. Doggy! It lets me check accounts, make transfers and more on the go. And if I need an extra hand, UW Credit Union has 13 Milwaukee area branches. Yippee! So, if you want simple mobile banking, mosey on over to UW Credit Union. They're here for every y'all. Federally insured by NCUA.
Gruber Law Offices presents Thanalysis.
Republic of Congo.
Yes, sir.
And Spain.
A podcast from Thanasis Antetokounmpo.
Serge Ibaka.
Yes, sir. Also supported by Carbless, premium ready-to-drink cocktails.
One of the best chefs in the world.
And Potawatomi Casino Hotel in Milwaukee.
Only way to get me, you have to come to Paris.
Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Calling all big thinkers. The world's climate is changing. These aren't new facts, but it means we must think in new ways about how we can live, prosper, and provide energy for our world while protecting our planet. Engineers are answering the call to create cleaner, safer, reliable energy. Solar power, harnessing the power of the sun to light all corners of the globe. Wind power, channeling a simple breeze to bring electricity to our homes. Hydropower, using the natural flow of water to generate electricity. Nuclear power, engineering advanced reactors that are safer, more reliable, and produce zero carbon emissions. Engineers are leading the way and empowering the next generation. Engineers answer the call. Brought to you by the National Academy of Engineering. Learn more at nae.edu.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health. Earth Justice is fighting to save lives, protect our climate, and strengthen our economy through the shift to zero emissions. If clean air matters to you, visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Gender was a major driver of Trump's victory in 2016. 8 years later, pundits and analysts will be hunting for a newer, fresher explanation. But sometimes the truth simply asserts itself on repeat. In 2016, Trump pitched himself to the disaffected working-class white man. He ran a campaign of explicit gender and racial grievance. His rallies were characterized by gross and almost cartoonish misogyny. He won, and political science researchers confirmed that although a sense of economic displacement was real, racism and sexism were the fuel that powered the Trump fire. So just for a moment, if racism and sexism not only helped him in 2016, but it helped him in 2024, and it expanded his base. And I want people to be very practical about this, especially people of color, in particular, women of color, but black women specifically. If his expansion, with all the things he said, with all the things he's done, with his felony counts, with his adjudication of his adjudicated sexual assault, he can't practice real estate anymore in the state of New York, all of the things. Where do you think you fit in? If racism and sexism were cornerstones of his campaign and he doubled down on both of those things, and he did better. Ladies and gentlemen, he won Wisconsin. We don't need to count the votes again. We even thought he was going to win Iowa because there was a poll, there was an outlier that showed that Kamala Harris was up 3 points in Iowa. And the pundits had analyzed it like this, and then they tried to apply it to places like Kansas and had me looking like a fool because like an idiot I believed him, because I did not want to think that what Donald Trump doubled down on and what made him, what allowed him to beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, that America hadn't learned from that. America actually had learned from that. Double down on what worked the first time. In fact, go even further. Push the envelope. Where do black women think that they're going to fit into all of this if sexism and racism increased his base? He has more votes. He got more, like he did a rally in New York, which that was insane to do that. So this is what they thought. And I tried to apply this logic because I was trying to figure out unconventional pathways to how Kamala Harris could get elected, because I know that racism and sexism exist. If you listen very closely to the people that call this show, you still hear it. You still hear it. Even amongst black men, even amongst black women, you still hear it covertly. So they said white women who are older, who vote in probably the highest number of any constituency group in this country. So white women in the 60s and in their 70s up until death. Because it's not like white people stop voting. Like, oh, I'm 90, I'm not going to vote. Oh, they really vote. They vote for school board. They vote for everything. So this pollster in Iowa, who I understand was one of the most respected pollsters in the country because she didn't ever submit to the political winds and how this particular, I don't know what this woman's name is, not that it matters. But the methodology that she used was where voters are at that moment, not where they were in the past, not what they could be thinking. She looked at where voters are in that moment. And it showed Kamala Harris leading the state of Iowa by 3 points. And then it was reduced down to older white women that remember what the world was like before the Roe versus Wade decision. And those older white women, who are some of the highest voting individuals in the country, they did not want to go back. Even though these women are post-reproductive age, they didn't want to have in America where someone who is responsible for overturning Roe, let me be more specific, pushing Roe back to the states with the Dobbs decision, that those white women were going to come out in force and come out in mass. And then we looked at other states, traditionally red states. Ohio is one, Kansas is another, where in the midterms, they put the referendum for abortion rights on the ballot. And even in conservative states, Kansas, Nebraska, and Ohio, we're talking 60+% of the vote, women, conservative women in red states, voted overwhelmingly to restore their reproductive rights. Okay? Then you fast forward to where we are right now. Those same women that overturned those referenda in their states because they wanted to keep abortion illegal, because that's what the federal government essentially allowed for. And so when those women came out in the last couple of years and voted on those referenda and said, no, we want to have our reproductive rights reinstated, etc., there were some of us that thought that those women would come out and vote against Donald Trump and vote for Kamala Harris. But I'm not that off base, because Kamala Harris doubled down on reproductive rights too, and she lost. So there's something that is illogical about what is happening. If in red states, Republican conservative women voted to reaffirm their abortion rights, Kamala Harris was like, well, I'm just going to go with what these women voted for in these conservative states, because we know that liberal women and progressive women are going to want to protect their reproductive rights. That's why you saw so many abortion commercials. But eventually, we either got desensitized to it or it started having the inverse effect, because this campaign was always about aggrieved white men. And then, just like every other thing that's predictable in America, white women were like, you know what? Donald Trump is the one that better speaks to my aggrieved white husband, white brother, my father, my uncle, et cetera, et cetera. Let me just go ahead and stick by them. Even though it is probably going to hurt me, well, it'll help my family because it's going to reinstate more power and more authority to the men in my family. And maybe they'll be empowered. Those men in my family will be empowered. This is what some white women are using as their logic in voting for Donald Trump. And maybe they'll get these damn immigrants the hell out of here. Because at the end of the day, us white women don't want to send our kids to schools sitting next to a dirty Mexican migrant. And my, oh my, those blacks are a problem too. When Amber Rose, and say whatever you want about her, take away her credibility, she said something that we should have paid attention to. Whether those words were scripted, maybe they weren't. She said, I felt safer when Donald Trump was president. I got kids, she said. We felt safer. There's something about, ladies, whether you want to admit this or not, a scary man. Something enticing about that, because you want that man to be scary to everybody else so you feel protected. And if you support him, maybe he'll protect you. But he'll scare away all the other boogeymen and all the other demons. He'll scare away all the other migrants. He'll scare away all of the things that you're afraid of. But if you just give him support, if you give him power, if you give more power to your abuser, maybe your abuser will abuse the people that you're also afraid of. It is an expedition in American psychology unlike anything I have ever seen. We're going to take a break, come back. Got some words from Joy Reid. Joy Reid was hot last night. Man, got a story from her. We're going to share that on the other side. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Truth Nation!
And all our juicy jammers out there.
Make certain that you tap into Jam with Juice each and every day so you can quench your thirst.
That is right. You already know you can sip on us every single day, like Benjamin said, from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. But that's not all, y'all.
Catch us exclusively on YouTube for our 6 to 7 show.
Yep, only on Thursdays.
Catch Jamming with Juice each and every day on 101.7 The Truth.
Now sip on that.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596. Or visit www.kwwf.org.
Associated Bank knows your small business isn't just a venture. It's your dream and a vital part of the community. And we're not just a bank. We're your neighbors. We're looking out for you. That's why Associated Bank offers quick online applications and approvals with funding in as fast as one business day, checking with no minimum balances or maintenance fees, and prompt customer service. Explore our products at associatedbank.com/business or visit a branch for more details. Subject to credit approval. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Milwaukee faces significant wealth gaps, but change is possible. Join entrepreneur Arlo Washington on November 13th for a transformative discussion on building wealth in underserved communities. Featured in the Oscar-nominated documentary The Barber of Little Rock, Washington's insights are a must-hear. Attend for free in person or online. Get your ticket at uwm.edu/SCE. Sponsored by the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership and hosted by UWM School of Continuing Education.
Hi, Drew and Jonathan Scott here, reminding you that American Family Insurance agents can help build a customized renter's policy so you can protect stuff like this, or this, or even this. Well, case in point. Life's better when you're under American Family's roof. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. American Family Mutual Insurance Company SI and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
I probably should read some of these text messages. 833-212-1017, 833-212-1017. Jay Harris says, instead of this emotional victim mindset and pushing fear, it should be asked what the people want, and black men are being blamed. No, we're not being blamed. White women did this. Let's get away from that whole conversation that black men did this. The Democratic Party probably has taken and just expected black men to fall in line with the party, which isn't entirely true. It's not as true now as it was 30 years ago. But there was also an expectation that black men would vote more overwhelmingly for a black woman. But we dissected Kamala Harris so many kind of ways. We had to find a way in which she wasn't black. Having a black daddy, that don't make her black. Having a white Jewish husband, that don't make her black. She went to an HBCU, most black people don't go to HBCUs. We're not going to count that either. We were looking for excuses as to why we were not going to support her. We got to see through all that. I think so many Americans are just used to being lied to that we just accept it. But well, she needs policy. Where's the policy? Donald Trump had none. Like, building walls and having mass deportation is not a policy. It's a grievance. It is racism, especially when he knows that our economy is fueled by those same migrants. Cutting taxes for rich people ain't no policy. How in the hell does that help you? It doesn't. Trump had no policies, but we said, well, Kamala Harris, do impossible stuff. Kamala Harris, get the youth. Kamala Harris, go on tour with rappers. Kamala Harris, get Beyonce. Kamala Harris, don't do what Barack Obama did. Be real specific and targeted and intentional with black men. She put out a whole 15-page paper on what she was going to do for us and mentioned us by name. And Barack Obama, see, this is another interesting flashpoint in this whole election cycle. When Barack Obama said what he said and how he said, who was the first ones that was complaining? Black men. Why he talked to us like that? Because a lot of black men had already decided they weren't going to be voting for Kamala Harris, and Obama knew it. And he was like, you sexist N-words, you. That's why Obama said what he said the way that he said it. He was like, how dare y'all? Barack Obama probably saw a lot of his wife, Michelle, and Kamala Harris. And I bet Michelle Obama, who unrealistically and ironically is like one of the most popular women in the country. But she's popular because she's Barack's wife. Not, if she ran for president, guess what, y'all? Michelle Obama would lose too. Now, I know that's a hard pill to swallow. You think the white women would vote for Michelle Obama? They will cozy up to her. They'll love her. They're like, oh, you go, girl. White women would play the role and play the game very well. They wouldn't vote for her either. We are not going to get a woman elected president in the United States as long as we still have the Electoral College, because it allows a very narrow sliver and unpopulated states to have a disproportionate amount of power in selecting the president. If we go to all popular vote, 10 million more people will vote in traditionally blue states, probably more than that. Well, my friend Sam hit me up last night, and she's like, oh, man, I really wish I still lived in Wisconsin, because in Illinois, my vote doesn't count because we're a blue state no matter what. Do you know how many millions of people in Cook County in the Chicagoland area are not even going to vote at all because they know that Illinois is going to be a blue state? And here's what's crazy. With the number of people that did not vote in Illinois, Donald Trump actually performed better, almost double digits better in traditionally blue states, because blue state voters are like, screw it, we're blue no matter what. And they know that the popular vote doesn't count toward the overall electability of somebody. They stay at home. If we had a popular vote system, Oprah could get elected president. Let me tell you what, if we had a popular vote system, you could run a double black ticket if we had a popular vote. And they had, good ideas and good plans. Because a lot of people that do vote for policy that live in blue states, traditionally blue states, big blue states, do not vote at all. That's what the Republicans are afraid of. And so what you're seeing is the ultimate backlash to an America that is changing. It's changing organically. It is changing demographically. Our sentiments about how we feel about things that were taboo in the past are now accepted now and just kind of rolled into what we consider diversity. But there's a cohort of people who don't want this country to become that. They don't want any kind of minority to have any kind of power because they have this deep-seated fear that we will punish them like they have been punishing us. And Donald Trump represents that better than anybody else. And he represents it so well. We allow him to be a felon. We allow him to be an adjudicated rapist. We allow him to be a fraud and a snake and a fake businessman. We allow that because he represents this element in this country that does not want us to change and favor diversity. So black people, if you think that you fit into that, we don't. Now, we're still going to exist some kind of way, but the little things that we need as far as policies go to make our lives a little bit better, a little bit easier, give us a few more opportunities, all of that stuff is going to fade away. They already took away affirmative action, and the Dobbs decision and Roe versus Wade already kills more black women. You don't hear about it. You think it doesn't happen because they don't report on it. Most of the stories that you heard during this election cycle were white women that were dying in their cars and getting sepsis because they couldn't get the necessary reproductive care. You heard from white women that had to go from state to state to state to try and find the reproductive health care that they needed, because usually the sympathy is deeper for a white woman, but at the end of the day, it didn't work. They didn't feature black women because nobody cares if black women suffer. So black women, not only are you suffering, you will suffer more. And who's going to come to your rescue? You think Donald Trump is going to have a health care plan or policies dedicated to like evening out the playing field when it comes to health care for black people? Do you think there's going to be anything anywhere in his administration, or if he will even appoint or hire someone in his administration that will look at the maternal mortality rate of black women? Hell no. J.D. Vance even suggested firing all of the federal civil service workers and replacing them with Trump loyalists. If that happens, those people that will be a part of that administration, those will be the real racists. Those will be the people that will freely and casually use the N-word in referring to people when they're typing up federal documents and sending emails. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to scare y'all, because black folks, we're used to this, right? We know America's racist. America can't show us something we've never seen before. So black folks, we ain't got nothing to worry about. Because we've seen it before, right? Right? Black folks are tough, right? We ain't got nothing to worry about. We shouldn't be scared. We know that America is racist. We've been through worse. Hell, we were slaves. They can't show us anything that we haven't seen before. And plus, we got prayer. Prayer got us here. Here's the problem. Somebody else's prayers got us here, not ours. Someone else prayed to crush these migrants, these immigrants, these people of color, these trans folks. Somebody prayed, I hope those people never have a president or a leader that listens to the thoughts and sentiments of minorities. Lord, please don't let Kamala get elected. I'll do whatever I can, Lord, to make sure that N-word, B-word, C-word never gets elected. And the Lord said, your wish is granted, my child. Donald Trump getting shot probably didn't help either, because then they're just like, he clearly is anointed from the Lord. The abortion issue wasn't enough. The Trump campaign spent $30 million to run an anti-trans ad 30,000 times, and it worked. The migrant and border issue supersedes having a country that respects diversity. Democrats got punched, and there's no way they could punch back because diversity is always weak. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be back for hour 3.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
The Milwaukee Panthers hit the road Thursday night as they travel to Iowa to take on the Northern Iowa Panthers.
Jump pass for Polian left of the circle. Tries to answer and does. It's pure. A bomb from KP. He's got 15. Cleared by Calvin. Forecourt holding. He'll lob it up. Noel will send it down.
Scott Warris has the coverage Saturday starting at 6:30 p.m. on 1017 The Truth and the Milwaukee Panthers Sports Network from Learfield. Tip-off happens at 7 o'clock.
Here at the new 1017 The Truth, we aim to be a staple in Milwaukee's Black community. We are committed to partnering with local organizations and supporting Black-owned businesses. We are proud to call Milwaukee our city and promise to be a positive reflection of our community. We look forward to celebrating Black culture and excellence with you every day as we make history and continue to uplift the voices in our city. Join us for the journey at the new 1017 The Truth, founded by Gruber Law Offices, Milwaukee Black Talk.
Truth Nation, let us take a second to brag for a moment. There is no other station in the country where you get a front row seat to hear from some of the biggest names in politics, pop culture, and sports. People like President Joe Biden.
Black child poverty was cut in half in 2021. We built black wealth, 15 million jobs nationwide, more than 2.5 million for Black Americans. Black wealth is up 60% since the pandemic.
Former President Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump.
Guys, we almost had a former president and very likely future president assassinated on live TV. Like, you know what that would have done for this country? You know what that would have made our country look like? We would look like a banana republic.
And Brewers all-star and former National League MVP Christian Yelich.
Listen, you already know.
Yeah, we got we were just in LA, so we heard our fair share of Kendrick out there in LA. Dodger Stadium has one of the best sound systems in baseball too.
Tap into the award-winning and nationally recognized 1017 The Truth by downloading the Truth app, listening live on 1017thetruth.com, and streaming us live at 1017 The Truth on YouTube.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. Feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Join the movement. Listen to the Tori Lowe Show on 101.7 FM, 1510 AM WGKB Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, the locally owned Good Karma brand station. You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Welcome to Hour 3 of The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. I am trying to find... here we go. How did she perform? Here we go. What is unofficial election results by ward? I don't want unofficial. I don't think the city of Milwaukee has our full citywide election result totals up yet, because we didn't know until 4:30 this morning that she had won Wisconsin, because they had to count the remaining 108,000 absentee ballots, so those of y'all that voted early, as I understand it, 108,000 of y'all voted early at the different scattered sites throughout the city. And for some reason, those votes weren't counted until very, very late, and they were counted in mass at the same time. And I knew that those votes, I thought anyway, that those votes would heavily favor Kamala Harris. And they probably did. But to strengthen the outstate rural Republican vote and support for Donald Trump, all we needed to do was lose a couple of ticks, a couple of percentage points in Milwaukee. And I want to be able to verify that. So just a 10% drop of support for Kamala Harris in Milwaukee would boost and strengthen the solid red support that Donald Trump got in these outstate counties. And that probably is what happened. But it's just because now the Democrats have got to go back to the drawing board completely. But here's the thing that I believe that they missed. The Steve Kornacki, who's the data guy for MSNBC, that's where I get my election coverage, because like MSNBC and NBC News, they're the absolute best. Like they've got like the best of the best reporters when it comes to election data. The trans thing, the anti-trans stuff, like, and keeping biological men out of women's domestic violence shelters and keeping biological men out of women's sports, that resonated, plus doubling down on immigration and migrants and securing the border. It works so well with rural voters, not just here in Wisconsin, but also in Georgia as well, because Georgia was the first state that showed us that traditional Trump voters, there was more of them. And it was weird because they would overlay these maps, right? We're talking about people that voted for Barack Obama. So it's not race. It's not race as much as we think it is. It is gender. Because they overlaid, and like when they were doing the data and showing the data, and all the different networks did this, they're like, Obama won all of this stuff in 2008. Obama won all of these areas and some of these rural areas in suburban Georgia in 2008 and 2012. And Kamala Harris, not only did she lose it, she lost it by more than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. There was something about her message that was too open. It was too fair. It was too diverse. It was too woke. Especially if you have an electoral college that is responsible for selecting our presidents. And when I say the electoral college is responsible for selecting our presidents, it makes, just like small rural counties have their vote strength emboldened when you lose a couple percentage points from big blue cities. And Madison actually overperformed, so Madison is probably very mad at us because Milwaukee likely underperformed. But if you peel off a couple percentage points in the city of Milwaukee, which I know Trump did, then it strengthens and emboldens some of those small rural counties that are going to be 90+% of the people that vote are going to vote for Donald Trump in some of those enclaves. If it even got that high, it doesn't even have to be that high. Just like the Electoral College gives, those 2 senators that every state gets really, really helps. And here's an example. California has 40 million people. I think it's something like 1 in 12 Americans live in California. Like, that's a really big state. 40 million people in California. California has the same amount of senators as Montana, and Montana as a state has a population of Milwaukee. So Montana, think about this now. Montana, a state of maybe 600,000 people. Is there there's a smaller one than that. What's another small population red state? Like Utah, South Dakota, North Dakota. Some of these states don't even have 1 million people. They have the same number of U.S. senators, which is 2, as a state that has 80 times their population, meaning North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Utah, Kansas, Nebraska. I'll give you in Oklahoma. I'll give you Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Have not even all those states I just gave you maybe have half the population of California, but they've got 20 times the senators. That is what's screwed up about the Electoral College. But at the same time, having the Electoral College makes the 10 electoral votes that Wisconsin has all that more important. And that's why they spend so much time here. Like, our issues really got hurt. Do y'all know how much national and international news I did? Because of the Electoral College, I am a contributor to CNN. I can literally put that on my resume. I am an actual CNN contributor. I did the BBC twice. The British Broadcasting Corporation 2 times. Once by myself, once with Dr. Kent. Because that is how important Wisconsin becomes in the Electoral College. If we go to an all-popular vote system here in the United States and Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. become states because they technically should be. And the reason why they aren't states is because they would be blue. Then nobody would care about Wisconsin. Candidates wouldn't even come here. There's not enough vote in Wisconsin. And what are we, 5.8, give or take, million people? Who cares who we vote for? Because they could just get 4 or 5 counties in California to outvote the entire state of Wisconsin. So why would they spend any time here? We're not going to get candidate visits. You know, our local media, we're not going to have opportunities to talk to national media. No one's going to care what black voters and black men in Milwaukee are thinking. We are only relevant because of our 10 Electoral College votes. And we, ironically enough, are the 10 Electoral College votes that came in at about 4:30 this morning that gave Donald Trump his victory. Oh, we going to take heat for this, Wisconsin. And some of y'all don't mind, but as Donald Trump becomes more unhinged and has the power of the presidency, let me just give y'all an idea of how powerful the executive branch of the federal government is. It is overwhelming. In the entire legislative branch, which is Congress is not just the House of Representatives. Congress is the name for both the U.S. Senate, which is the upper chamber, and the lower chamber, which is the House of Representatives, okay? There are 435 members of the House of Representatives. There are 100 U.S. senators. That is Congress. And think about all of the offices they have in their home state. Like California probably has, I can't tell you how many congressional offices. The senators probably have 5 or 6 offices each. And they all have employees. They all have staff. They all have people that do constituent relations. And they've got people that, you know, are the secretaries and people that answer the phone. So think about all of these congressional offices that we have all over the country and all 535 representatives, you know, their offices, right? They got a bunch of offices, a lot of staff. There's about 30 or 31,000 employees of the entire legislative branch. Like, that's a lot of people. So all of the members of the House, all of the members of the Senate, all of their offices, all of their staff, all their employees, all their support staff, about 30 or 31,000 people, total employees. That's a lot of folks, okay? The judicial branch. The judicial branch is also pretty big, too, because it's not just the Supreme Court. It's the Supreme Court. It's all of their staff, but it's the district courts. And I think we have like 90-something, 93, 94 district courts in the entire federal judicial branch, and all of their staff and all of the paralegals and the staff attorneys and all the researchers and all the people. So the judicial branch is about another 30-ish thousand people. This is off the top of my mind. You guys can Google it if you want more precise numbers. But the whole legislative branch, 30 or 31,000 people, the entire judicial branch, which includes the Supreme Court, but also the lower courts, the appellate courts, et cetera, about another 30 or 31,000 people. The executive branch, controlled by the President of the United States, is 4.1 million people. We're going to have to play a numbers game. I'm going to need y'all to understand some math. And remember back when you was in math class and in high school, oh, when am I ever going to need this? Now! You're going to need to know math now! Donald Trump has control and purview over 4.1 million people in the executive branch of government. That is every department. That's the Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, the Department of the Interior, the Department of Transportation, all of those departments, all of their staff, the EPA, the FDA, all of those people. And guess who else? So all the departments, all the people, and the whole U.S. military. Guess what? Because he is what? What's the president, y'all? Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military. We have several million, probably 2 million, give or take, maybe more than that, service members. Donald Trump controls them. So if he wants to unleash them on your black ass, who's going to stop him? The judicial branch. And here's the thing. There are no more checks and balances, because if you have control over, and he does have control, Trump can do anything he wants with those 4.2 million people that he controls that are under his auspices as the leader of the free world, as president of the United States. So if he has think of it like this. Donald Trump is the CEO of a corporation that's got the same number of employees as damn near the whole population of the state of Wisconsin, okay? The judicial branch, which is supposed to provide a check for Donald Trump, like if he does something that's weird, wild, and crazy, they can say, oh, I can't do that. That's unconstitutional. And then if Donald Trump tries to do an executive order that goes too far, Congress can say, oh, no, that's unconstitutional. That's illegal. You can't do that because Congress doesn't like that. We're going to pass a law that's going to overturn your executive order. Donald Trump has 4.1 million people under his control. Congress and the courts, that are supposed to be the other checks on him, only have 60,000 employees combined. Now, here's what you got to think about. Of the 4+ million people that Donald Trump has control and purview over in the executive branch of government, a lot of them hate black people, and a lot of them are going to have a whole bunch of power to impact our lives. Because the federal government is not just in Washington, D.C., it's in your state. The Department of Housing and Urban Development they have offices in Wisconsin. The U.S. military has got branches and forts and military bases, not just in the United States, but all across the world. His power is literally going to be unchecked. Now, here's the thing. If you like him, if you trust him, if you think he's going to make good decisions on behalf of Americans, well, then you are a pig in slop. You are in a wonderful position if you believe that. If you think that he and J.D. Vance are going to fire every single person that's not loyal to him and hire Trump loyalists, no matter how racist they are, no matter if they have felonies, no matter if they were just in prison and Donald Trump pardoned them, no matter if they're members of the Proud Boys, no matter if they stormed the Capitol on January 6th, they can be a part of the 4.1 million people that he needs to fully fill out all of his jobs in his administration. That's where the problem is. Trump is only one person. 4 million people are going to work for him. Oh, that gets your mind right, doesn't it? Because in those 4 million people, there might be somebody really bad, really evil that wants to interrupt, I don't know, an entitlement program or a benefit program. Nah, we're not going to send Wisconsin any Medicare this month. Nah, they're not going to get their federal allocation for SNAP benefits. Who's going to stop them? You? What are you going to do? Protest? And you know how he feels about protesters, right? You know that during the George Floyd riots, and this is when he had sensible military officials and joint chiefs of staff around him, he inquired about a couple of things. Number one, nuclear war. Number two, well, how come we can't shoot the peaceful protesters? So these are the same generals that made it clear that they were no longer supporting Donald Trump because they knew that he was a threat to democracy, a threat to America because of the conversations that he had with them when Donald Trump hired them during his first term. Do you know what all those people did? Something like 200 plus either intelligence officials and military officials. And so a lot of y'all, none of this is going to matter because you love Trump so much that none of these facts are going to matter. But to the rest of us that have to live under this regime for the foreseeable future, it's a bit of a concern. Not only do they say he's dangerous and he is unfit, they supported Kamala Harris. We should have been alarmed by the number of Republicans, conservative Republicans, that said, yeah, we can't support this dude anymore, even though he is a member of our party. Policy-wise, he'll probably let us get away with anything that we want if we still, give him our endorsement. They said we can't. Make no mistake about Liz Cheney. Ain't not one time has she ever been called a liberal, because she ain't. Her father, Dick Cheney, frighteningly conservative. Dick Cheney, I would say, between Dick Cheney and Karl Rove, they were the Donald Trumps of their time. They just didn't go as far as Trump did. Trump was like, okay, well, so you guys stay within the confines of the rules of the Constitution. Trump basically was like, well, what if I break the Constitution? Like, what's really going to happen? And ultimately, nothing. He was justified, in fact, in breaking the rules of the Constitution. And they started with the toughest bar to accomplish is overturning Roe. Ultimately, it comes down to this. Trump can do whatever he wants any day of the week, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how outrageous. So during his first term, there was actually a benefit because there were people that he selected that actually knew the government and knew how far Trump could go. That's who he selected. But guess what? They didn't let him go as far as he wanted to. So Trump, what did he do? He fired everybody and replaced them with people that were very, very loyal to him. And even some of them got fired. Trump will have a more loyal circle than anything he has ever had before. That's fascism, because they're not going to look out for you. They're not going to look out for the American people. They're not going to look out for the Constitution. This is what fascism is. They are going to support Donald Trump even in his most outrageous, grandiosely disgusting fantasies. And the Supreme Court was like, yeah, as long as your president is totally legal. That is what we need to be concerned about. And so those of you that have ever accused a white person of being prejudiced or ever accused them of being racist, and I'm sure a lot of you have, imagine if you gave that person that you may think is racist or may think is prejudiced unlimited power and being backed up by the courts. We as black people, there's no salvation for us. Where are we going to go? Where are you going to file your complaint? The EEOC, done. The Department of Justice that investigates discrimination, done, defunded. The Department of Education, which sets education policy in this country and investigates discrimination, like, places like MPS, where they suspend and expel black and brown kids more than anybody else, done. Consent decrees with police departments. Hey, police department in St. Louis or Ferguson or Baton Rouge or Louise, wherever else, Tallahassee County, Mississippi. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of incidents here that were reported to the federal government, to the Department of Justice, where you are racially profiling black people and you're being very racist. You're using a whole bunch of excessive force. Now, the Department of Justice would say, we're going to have a consent decree, so you got to shape up or you're going to lose all of your federal funding. Guess what? Done. All the consent decrees. That's in Project 2025. All of the consent decrees to stop the use of force amongst police departments are null and void. So Trump doesn't even have to say, oh, we're just going to give the police an hour to do whatever they want. That starts the day he gets sworn in. Oh, it's going to be a very beautiful thing. And what's going to happen when we have the next George Floyd? Y'all going to be really mad because some black folks going to feel duped because y'all going to be like singing and crying. Like, I voted for you, Trump. Why are you letting this happen? You're going to get out there. You're going to be mad. You're going to protest. And then you'll be met with the U.S. military, not just the National Guard, but the actual Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And you'll be out there protesting, maybe peacefully. Might be a few people might break some things. Maybe a couple of fires are going to get started. And the military will descend in that city, maybe Milwaukee, maybe Chicago, maybe Detroit. And the military will be standing there, and then they'll give the order, open fire. Because it's happened before. Kent State, college kids protesting the Vietnam War. And these were white college kids. But for lower inflation and cheaper gas prices, it's probably worth it, I suppose. You're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Truth Nation, it's Telly Hughes from Truth Be Told with Denise Thomas and Telly Hughes, and I have to let you know that the best morning show in the country is streaming live on YouTube every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Yes, DT and I are now waking you up in the a.m. live every weekday on YouTube. So go to YouTube right now to subscribe to 1017 The Truth so you can watch Denise and I get your morning started off right. Milwaukee Black Talk is now streaming live on YouTube.
What distinguishes Old National Bank from other lenders in helping people buy their first home and furthering their small businesses?
One thing that really makes us stand out is our grants. We have 2 really big grants right now specifically for first-time home buyers buying in Milwaukee County. The first one is for $15,000. They have to be buying within Milwaukee County and reach certain income limits. And then the second one is for $20,000, and that is through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indiana. We're headquartered in Indiana, as you know, Denise. So that is a second grant, and that is really the highest, most robust grant program throughout the entire southeastern Wisconsin area. So it's it's up to $35,000 essentially that a person could be receiving for their first home. If you are in a position that you're looking to buy your first home throughout Milwaukee County, please give me a call. Please contact me. I'm more than happy to help everybody that I can.
And what's your number, Anna?
Sure.
How can they reach you?
414-978-0283.
Hi, Drew and Jonathan Scott here, reminding you that a lot of life's firsts are better with help from American Family Insurance, like your first home expansion or your first big lightning strike. There's a first for everything. Get the right home policy at the right price with the right help from American Family's agents. Life's better when you're under American Family's roof. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. American Family Mutual Insurance Company SI and its operating company 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Natural gas is a clean, reliable, and convenient source of energy delivered directly to you through underground pipelines. The pipeline system has an excellent safety record, but there are clues that can help you identify a potential hazard. If you smell the strong odor of rotten eggs, hear an unusual hissing sound, or see blowing dirt or debris, it could be a natural gas leak. Leave the area immediately and call We Energies at 800-261-5325.
We Energies. People you can trust. Energy you can depend on.
Do you know or work with kids who have special healthcare needs? Help them live their best lives. Contact Wisconsin Wayfinder Children's Resource Network. Our specialists will connect you with services in your area. Wisconsin Wayfinder is free and confidential. Call 877-947-2929 or visit dhs.wi.gov/WISCWAY. Connect today. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Brian texted and said, and Vance went from calling Trump America's Hitler to being his running mate. Underscores your points about loyalty. Also, Vance will be the next nominee since Trump can only serve one term. Yes, and I don't think that Trump is going to stay in office. He wanted to hand MAGA off to the right person, and Donald Trump is now, he's vindicated because not only did he win, nobody's challenging the election, and Democrats, you'd be dumb to challenge it. Dude won. He not only did he win, he won the popular vote and the Electoral College, and he has the Senate in his pocket. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the House. He already had the U.S. Supreme Court. At some point, I got a whole show on Joe Biden and Joe Biden's role in this, because notice we haven't mentioned Joe Biden's name. Joe Biden is going to have to bear some responsibility. For a moment, Joe Biden was the hero because he stepped aside, but there was something that Joe Biden misread. He misread the Democrats' gains in the midterm elections in 2022. And Joe Biden said, I could run for a second term based upon how Democrats did in the midterm election of 2022. That's Democrats writ large in districts in certain states. That's not Democrats Joe Biden. That's Democrats in states. That's Democrats in cities. That's Democrats in regions of the country, not Democrats Joe Biden. I'll run for re-election. Yeah, I'm very serious. I'm serious. I'll run. I'll win. It'll be good. I tell you, folks, I'm going to run for re-election. Joe goes to the debate. You remember the debate. Even Trump was when Joe Biden had that stumble, I'm not going to do it today, but go back, replay it, that debate, because I'm sure there's probably a clip that's segmented out when Joe Biden, we saved Medicare. Trump was just like, Trump knew. He was like, it's over. When Trump did interviews after that debate where Joe Biden stumbled and stuttered, Trump almost had a level of sympathy for him. For a moment, Donald Trump seemed human because he kind of felt bad for Joe Biden, but he didn't. You know how Trump makes fun of people? Like, he'll crush people. He crushes people's whole souls. Trump ribs people. Like, remember the guy who was disabled, whose arm was all messed up? Trump made fun of him. He could have did something like that to Joe Biden, but he was like, I don't need to. America saw that. He's done. And then Joe Biden was like, well, it was a mishap. Sometimes I stutter. That's what it was. Joe Biden lost his train of thought right there, because the prevailing understanding about Joe Biden up until that point was, oh, he's weak, he's getting dementia, and then he just proved it. Trump didn't even need to double down on it. I bet Trump probably wanted to, but he was like, nah. We're just going to let that speak for itself. So when Biden did a couple things, he misread the political tea leaves and the Democrats' successes in the midterms of 2022, and he translated that all to himself. Thought he could run for re-election. At the same time, he was battling inflation. The economy on paper has improved, but a lot of that has not hit Main Street. And the issue with that is the corporations and the corporate interests that have raised prices on us because they still want to make back the profit that they did not make during the pandemic. They raise the prices on us, and what do? We blame the Biden administration. This is corporate greed, but let me do you one better, because if you think that things are going to get cheaper, and here's what's crazy. More of you will qualify for welfare benefits because what's going to happen to salaries, incomes, and prices, but less of you are going to get it. They're not funding your welfare. Are you insane? Do you know what kind of administration this is going to be to SNAP benefits and other types of federal benefits that you would qualify for because of your income? Y'all, you wait. And I'm not even trying to use a scare tactic. These are like sensible Republican policies. Trump is going to cut the corporate tax rate for the corporations that are ripping you off right now. They're going to have, not only going to have carte blanche to continue to rip you off, they're still going to raise prices, because what are you going to do about it? You're not going to blame Daddy Trump. Daddy Trump is good for the economy. You're not going to blame him. He's the businessman. But J.D. Vance is a very interesting kind of story, right? He came from Appalachia, went to Yale, divorced himself from his white trash hillbilly roots completely. Didn't want to be a part of that no more because he's better than those people. Went to Ohio, left the region of Appalachia altogether, got his little fancy education, then was an extension of Peter Thiel, went and worked for a hedge fund, flirted with money. But then he was also enlightened, and he saw Donald Trump because he was a never Trumper. But J.D. Vance probably had some insecurities. Now, I didn't see hillbilly elegy, but he had some issues growing up. Like his parents weren't there. I think he was raised by his grandmother. From all accounts, she wasn't a very nice person. So he had a bunch of insecurities. But he still was a bright guy. Left-leaning in his politics somewhat, thought that Trump was America's Hitler, which was a sentiment that was shared by a lot of people. But if J.D. Vance has a little bit of insecurity in him because of how he grew up, and he didn't have his parents around, I think he might have been abused a little bit. That insecurity can change a man's perspective, because at some point he had a conversation with Trump. And Trump probably said to him, because Trump is real good at this, Trump is real good at making people that are insecure feel powerful, because he gives them someone to scapegoat. And Trump probably said to J.D. Vance, J.D., I heard the things you said about me. I didn't like the things you said about me. Didn't like them at all. They were very bad things. But J.D., do you want power? Do you want all the power you could ever have? We're going to have so much power. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful power. Do you want a piece of that, J.D.? I know how you grew up, J.D. It was very bad. It was very rough. You were very poor. You called me Hitler. I didn't like it. I'm not Hitler. Almost. I'm a little bit worse. Maybe not. I don't know. But J.D., do you want to be powerful with me? Do you want to take over the world, J.D.? And J.D. was like, he reverted back to being a little boy. And he was like, wow, I remember what it was like to be nothing and to have nothing and to be told I was nothing. I don't care how successful a man gets. he always remembers those people that told him he would be nothing, and he is hell-bent on revenge for the rest of his natural life. Ladies, be warned and beware. If a man has ever been made to feel small and insecure, especially by a woman, he is hell-bent to punish not just that woman, but all women that remind him of her. It's deep in our psychology. Kamala Harris probably reminded a lot of men of a woman that said, you're stupid, or you're fat, or you have a little penis. And so what we do is we punish women. Let's take something away from these women that have been mean to us, that wouldn't date us, that wouldn't have sex with us. Take away their right to have an abortion. Rape them, let them get pregnant, and make them have the baby. That's how we're going to show women. And if you think that men don't think that way, then you don't know us. Now, it's not all men, but it's enough. And some of those enough run for office, and some of them win, and some of them have control over the federal government and 4.1 million employees that he's going to make sure are loyal to him. Now I get it. I get it now why for such a long time the Republicans, but they only seem to say this when the Democrats in the White House, they said the federal government is too big. The executive branch is too big. We got to get rid of some of these departments. We got to get rid of the Department of Education, which was started by Jimmy Carter, by the way. That's why they don't like it, because it was started by a liberal named Jimmy Carter. It's too big. I get it. 4.1 million people in the executive branch, which does include every single part of the U.S. military, plus all the federal departments, all of their employees, et cetera, compared to the legislative branch, which is a check on the executive branch, which is only 30,000 people, compared to the judicial branch, when you add up all of the courts and all the Supreme Court and all of their staff and all the district courts and all the federal appellate courts, that's only 30,000 people. They are no match for the 4.1 million people that work in the executive branch, that work under the auspices of the president. So I get it when they say, wow, if we ever have a dictator president, not only are they going to have a tremendous amount of executive authority, they're going to have 4.1 million staff people, including the U.S. military, that are completely under their control. Boom, and now we got it. Let's take a little break here. I still want to share with you guys what Joy Reid said. We'll do that on the other side. You're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Associated Bank knows your small business isn't just a venture. It's your dream and a vital part of the community. And we're not just a bank. We're your neighbors. We're looking out for you. That's why Associated Bank offers quick online applications and approvals with funding in as fast as one business day, checking with no minimum balances or maintenance fees, and prompt customer service. Explore our products at associatedbank.com/business or visit a branch for more details. Subject to credit approval. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's time for Truth Takes, a thought-provoking commentary on the new 101.7 The Truth. Here is Tory Lowe with his truth.
Breaking news, Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office is investigating the death of 43-year-old Devontae L. Mitchell outside of the Hyatt Regency on Sunday as a homicide. Breaking news. A Milwaukee mother is speaking out after her 17-year-old daughter, Amira Wallace, was shot and killed at Milwaukee's Deneen Park. This happened just after midnight on July 22nd. Breaking news. According to a sheriff's office report, Sean Grayson said he shot Sonia Massey after fearing she would throw boiling water at him, which would have caused great bodily harm or death. Breaking news. Body cam video shows fatal police shooting of 4-year-old Illinois boy and man holding him hostage. Police responding to a domestic violence call shot a 4-year-old named Terrell Marshawn Miller and his mother's boyfriend. Now that I have your attention, these are families that are more than just a news story. These are families who are hurting. These are families that are searching for justice. As a community, it's our duty to get involved and make sure we do our part to make sure that these families receive the justice that they're searching for. Today, it's their families in the news. Tomorrow is yours. This is why it's important for us to make sure that we stay on the front lines and make sure that we do our part to help change what's going on in our neighborhood. Whether it's police brutality, whether it's senseless violence, whether it's human trafficking, we all can do our part and help each and every family that's affected negatively in our communities get justice.
This has been Truth Takes on the new 1017 The Truth. Listen to The Tory Lowe Show weekdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
When you're high, you feel different. Pretty obvious, right? You think different, talk different, but if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Join Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for Marketplace Wisconsin, the Governor's Conference on Diverse Business Development, December 11th and 12th. Register at marketplacewisconsin.com.
Seriously injured? Call Gruber Law Offices today.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
All right, let's see. Joy Reid, MSNBC host Joy Reid said during the network's election night coverage that the reason Vice President Kamala Harris wasn't able to get a win in the battleground state of North Carolina was that white women voters did not come through. Reid was taking part in MSNBC's coverage of the presidential election results, and after anchor Rachel Maddow announced the call for former President Donald Trump in North Carolina, Reid was the first up to discuss how that came about. So let me see here. Did he win Michigan too? They're still counting votes. He swept everything. I don't know what Nevada did. And there was also some discrepancy. Oh, here they got the Tammy Baldwin race. Tammy Baldwin is going to beat Eric Hovde. At least that's one benefit, even though Tammy Baldwin is going to be in the U.S. Senate minority. Eric Hovde was just awful. It's like they just found anybody in Eric Hovde. Just a mush-mouth weirdo, ain't even from here, talked funny, tried to be Donald Trump. You see that debate performance? Tammy wasn't good in that debate either. But when it comes to races like this, like the partisanship and the overall tone and tenor of the Trump message overshadowed any debate performance, but they both were terrible in the debate. My issue with Tammy, now I can say it because she's going to get reelected, it looks like, is she has not been as connected to the black community or black voters or black media. She's always been like that. In 2012, when she was running for the U.S. Senate for the first time, the Dems had their main campaign office on like 65th and Capitol. At the time, I was working at a radio station that broadcasted on 20th and Capitol, and I never talked to Tammy before. Only other time I'd ever seen Tammy Baldwin was either at an event or on an airplane. But I never really had a chance to talk to her or interview her. So it was the first time that I was going to be talking to Tammy Baldwin. This was like October of 2012. So she is on the heels of being elected to the U.S. Senate. And I had never had any conversations with her at all. And here's a chance for me to talk to Tammy, because I was looking forward to, getting her in the studio and talking about her, talking with her about her policies, what she was going to do for Wisconsin, Milwaukee, black people, blah, 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 blah. And so they told me that, oh, sure, when you got your first interview set up with Tammy Baldwin at, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm like, bet. And so I'm waiting for her to come in studio, because considering she was at the main campaign office that day, it's on 65th and Capitol Drive, and I'm on 20th and Capitol Drive. That's maybe a 10-minute drive. Straight shot down Capitol. All she had to do was head east. All of a sudden, the phone rings. I'm like, oh, we have a call. I said, well, let's get this call out of the way. And then, because Tammy's going to be in studio. It was Tammy. Even though she was right down the street on 65th and Capitol Drive, she would not come to 20th and Capitol Drive to be in studio with me. It was a damn phone call. And I think that showed me everything that I needed to know. Think about how many times Kamala Harris has been here on The Truth. Hell, I interviewed Kamala Harris 4 times. Ben and Carrie interviewed her. So that's at least 5 times that Kamala Harris has been here on The Truth. I talked to Tammy Baldwin once this cycle. In fact, The Truth has talked to Eric Trump more times than Tammy Baldwin, who absolutely needed the black vote. Eric Hovde has been on The Truth so much that one of his visits with us was a national TV commercial. So go figure. Now, Tammy's going to get reelected, but she's lost the majority. Joy Reid was taking part of MSNBC's coverage of the presidential election results, and after anchor Rachel Maddow announced the call for former President Donald Trump in North Carolina, Reid was the first up to discuss how that came about. Noting that Harris needed to exceed President Joe Biden's 2020 numbers but failed to do so, Reid said, I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not, she said. This is what happens, or this is what appears happened in that state. But Trump won North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, of course, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. Think he may get Nevada. Don't know what Arizona did. So he swept the battleground states. So where we thought Kamala Harris was not only competitive, there were many paths to victory. So in all those states I just named, and let's not forget about Georgia. Georgia would have been a great prize. And Georgia made sense because what did Georgia do? Elected 2 Democratic senators. One guy's Jewish, one guy's black. Raphael Warnock and then Jonathan Ossoff. So Georgia's got 2 Democratic senators. Joe Biden won Georgia because that's when Donald Trump committed his first incident of voter fraud when he called either the Secretary of State or the Governor, Brian Kemp, and said, I need to find 11,780 votes. Just find them for me. Dude, you can't find votes that don't exist. So Georgia was competitive. And that makes sense why the Democrats and Kamala Harris focused on Georgia. They was in Georgia a lot. They even had Lil Jon at campaign events. In fact, at the convention, when Georgia announced their delegates pledging to Kamala Harris, Lil Jon did a damn concert. So Georgia was competitive. It made sense why she campaigned in Georgia because Joe Biden won it, not by a lot. But if a Democrat like Joe Biden can win the state of Georgia by 11,000 votes, if Kamala Harris was there a lot and they spent a lot of money and they really pounded Trump, talked about how bad Trump was, how racist he was, and you concentrated on Fulton County, you concentrated on McCobb, Fulton, not Fulton, what's the other county? I don't know the damn counties. I should know. Macomb or McCobb, whatever. The Atlanta metro area, like, wow, we can do better than Joe Biden did because Kamala Harris, you would think, would be a much more attractive candidate to voters in Georgia, especially in the Atlanta metro area and with college-educated women, a lot of whom are black, right? Nope, she lost it. Not only did she lose it, rural Georgia outperformed Donald Trump's last victory in 2016. And then she loses North Carolina, which we thought was competitive. Then she loses Michigan. She spent a lot of time in Michigan. There were some days where Kamala Harris was in both Michigan and Wisconsin the same day. She really, really campaigned hard. And again, that's taking a lesson from Hillary Clinton's loss. Here's what I'll give Kamala Harris for. And again, she ran a great campaign because she listened and she learned from the mistakes of the past, which a lot of candidates don't do. They looked at where Hillary Clinton screwed up. First thing that Hillary Clinton did when she screwed up, it said, this is a historic campaign. I'm a woman nominee. I'm going to wear a bunch of pantsuits. And there's 18 million cracks in the glass ceiling. That's all Hillary Clinton had to say. And people were like, we're not voting for no woman. You're making too much about you being a woman. Black people, you ever had a conversation with a white person and you try to explain to them racism, the structural kind, the institutional kind, or maybe you go back in history and talk about de facto or de jure segregation, and then your white friend responds by saying, what? Why are you always making it about race? Why are you always talking about race? Nobody cares about race. Why are you always talking about race? That turns people off, believe it or not. They know it exists. You don't got to explain racism to white people. They invented it. Stop thinking you got to explain to them. It turns them off because, trust me, they know what it is. They use it to their benefit. Hell, they used it last night, and they're going to use it for the foreseeable future because it works. But when you say to a white person, like, wow, this stuff is racist, some of them be like, oh, you're right, that is racist. Sucks to be you, Blackie. Some of them are like, why are you always bringing up race? You guys know what I'm talking about. They turn it on you, like, why are you bringing up racism? Like, you're always talking about race. Just get over it. Slavery was a long time ago. Just relax. Same thing with being a woman. If you prop up and talk too much about being a woman and how it's historical, you're the first woman, that's going to turn off a lot of people, particularly men, especially insecure men. So Kamala Harris, never once did you hear her say or give a speech, I'm going to be the first woman president ever. Hillary Clinton didn't do it, but I'm going to be the woman. I'm going to break all of the glass ceilings in history. Kamala Harris didn't say that mess because she knew better. That turns people off. She also knew from the get-go she was polling poorly with men. She was like, I'm not going to remind men that I'm a woman. In fact, I'm going to try and be strong and I'm going to say I have a gun. Very awkward, very uncomfortable, and I'll be willing to bet dollars to donuts. Kamala Harris ain't got no damn pistol. Did you hear what she said when she said, I'm a gun owner, I'm not going to take your gun? I got, she kind of stuttered when she said it. She's like, I got the pistol. It's loaded, too. I'll shoot you. Poor Tim Walz. Oh, man, this is going to be something else, y'all. And again, for people that don't quite understand how the government works, and I learned that a lot of people don't, let me say this to y'all, because a lot of y'all that don't know how bad this can actually get, and maybe it doesn't get that bad at all. Maybe Trump is just like, I'm getting old. I ain't got time to be mean anymore. I'm just going to let things play out the way they play out. Maybe he does that. Maybe he gives us a break. Maybe he gives us a reprieve. Maybe he says, oh, that abortion thing, I was just kidding. Maybe Donald Trump hires a bunch of Democrats to be in his administration. Maybe. But let's say he doesn't. Let's say he stays true to form. Because I know so much about how the government works. Like, y'all, that is what my show is based on. My professional career has been working in, around, for elected officials, their campaigns at every single level of government for a quarter century. I've seen all this stuff before. I also know that if we give our democratic institutions to the wrong person, it can be a disaster unlike anything you have ever seen, because America is the most powerful country in the world. So when we elect a leader that is hell-bent on being an authoritarian, it's really dangerous. And because I know how powerful the federal government is and how powerful America is and how strong our military is, I mean, hell, countries around the world spend our dollar. I don't think Americans even appreciate how frightening that is. Our currency is the damn standard for the world. That's why there's a couple of countries that want to try and have their own currency to attempt to compete with the dollar. Between how we worship God in this country and our dollar, we are unmatched in our superiority. So if we get a leader with the wrong personality, the dangers are untold. And there's some people that are saying, oh, Sherwin, you're being ridiculous. You're blowing this out of proportion. And when you say that about what I've been saying today for these last almost 3 hours, that tells me that you don't know anything about the federal government. In fact, I would sit that person down. They would say, oh, Sherwin, you're being dramatic. And I would ask them how a bill becomes a law. They wouldn't be able to tell me. I'd ask them to name a couple of committees. I'd ask them to tell me what markup is when you are creating a bill and trying to create meaningful legislation. They won't be able to know. So if you think that I'm going too far, you don't know how the government works. And you that don't know how the government works, you will be the greatest victims of it, because they will screw you in so many ways and you will not see it coming. I see it coming, and it can be really bad. It can. Now, maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe your taxes will get cut. Maybe the inflation will get lower. Maybe money will just be falling out the trees. Or they will allow free reign of law enforcement. Or they will start to evaporate resources for African Americans to try and fight poverty. Or they will get rid of the Department of Education and the federal funding for education that comes to Wisconsin. Maybe that'll all dry up too. Maybe the Department of Housing and Urban Development gets privatized and it goes to the people that are already, the hedge funds that are already buying the houses and making rent unaffordable. Maybe, but maybe Trump says, oh, no, I'm not going to do that to you. Maybe. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. We'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
What's good, y'all? This is 101.7 The Truth's Telly Hughes, and I am Milwaukee. The goal of Truth Be Told with DT and Telly is to provide a platform for citizens of Milwaukee and Truth Nation to have their voices heard about concerns that have daily, direct impact. So join the home of Milwaukee's realest conversations where you can speak your truth. We are the award-winning 101.7 The Truth, Milwaukee Black Talk.
The Empowerment Small Business Loan Program, we're talking about up to $5 million, which for small business owners, we need that. That's like payroll, that's resources. So can you just let us know, what is the program and why is this lending program so important to Old National Bank?
Years ago, our CEO, Jim Ryan, this program is his brainchild. He was working with Roland Shelton, who you know, Denise, out of Evansville, and they identified that African-American business owners, Hispanic business business owners, Native American business owners, as well as women business owners had a difficult time in obtaining financing from the traditional credit partners. And so we went out, created a program, launched it last year in 2023. And so far last year, we have helped over 100 successful minority and women-owned businesses with about $25 million in loans. We've already started this year with almost $8 million in approvals, again, geared toward minority business owners and women business owners that normally had difficulties in obtaining traditional credit finance.
Your drink, sir?
This virtual vacation is brought to you by Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport. For the full experience, visit flymke.com to explore our many nonstop destinations. With super convenient parking and low fares, flying from Milwaukee makes traveling so easy, it's like starting your vacation early. Fly easy, fly MKE.
There's something about a plate of warm cookies that sends you back in time. Relive your childhood memories with this year's We Energies Cookie Book. Pick up your copy and start creating new memories. Go to weenergies.com to find a distribution event near you. Thank you for making us a part of your family traditions. From all of us at We Energies, we offer you warm wishes for a bright holiday season. This message was paid for by the stockholders of WEC Energy Group.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me at work when I lead by example. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my community and those I care about safe from threats. Learn more about how you too can live and serve part-time close to home by visiting NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard, aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
It's College Month in the award-winning 1017 The Truth, and we want to help your young scholar get those free scholarship dollars. All month long, we will be highlighting local universities who offer tuition scholarships and local organizations who help students find thousands of dollars in scholarships every year. So be sure to tune into The Truth all month long so you do not miss this important information on how your student can go to college and be debt-free. College Scholarship Month on The Truth is sponsored by Concordia University, Wisconsin, Live Uncommon, and Educators Credit Union, Achieving More Together. All right. Gerard says, Latin men especially, and their women voted heavily for Trump. I think we can grieve this loss for a second and start using our airtime to discuss what we need to do as a people in this country. We don't know yet, and I wish I could tell you. I wish I could say, hey, everybody, here's what we're going to do moving forward. Because so much of what we have and what we get is connected to the federal government. I don't know how we move forward. Because it's like Trump, okay, so Trump we're playing chess. Trump has us in check and we have less powerful pieces on the board. Doesn't mean we can't maneuver, right? We can avoid and evade capture. We can use our pawns. We can use our bishop. We can use our rook. We're going to have to use our knights, assuming we don't lose any of our knights, as defensive weapons on the chessboard. But Trump still has his queen. Trump still has his rooks. Trump still has all of his pawns. We have less pieces, and I don't yet know how we as a black community in Milwaukee move and maneuver on the chessboard until Trump moves next. He's going to start releasing bits and pieces of who he's going to appoint, who's going to be on his transition team. That's going to give us some idea of what is in his psychology. If he brings back some of the old characters, Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, if they have prominent roles in his administration, ooh, this is going to be a tough chess match. We just have to find a way to not get checkmated. Because if we as a black community get checkmated, that means that they returned the Dred Scott decision and Plessy versus Ferguson back to the states. This is just hear me on this one. This is a trajectory that we have to some kind of way prevent. Allowing the Supreme Court to allow states to make their own decisions about segregation and about racism and about discrimination. If the federal government says, hey, you know what? The federal government shouldn't be involved in what discrimination is. And you know what? That business owners have freedom of speech too. And if they don't want N-words in their businesses, well, then that's up to that particular state to decide that. That's what we don't want. That would be because they achieved the highest bar, and the highest bar was the Dobbs decision, returning abortion back to the states. So if you return just 2 U.S. Supreme Court decisions back to the states to let them make those decisions like they did with Dobbs, we're screwed and we'll have no recourse. Our recourse is the federal government. We sue in federal court. We sue to the Department of Justice. We sue to the EEOC. All of that potentially could be gone because Donald Trump has no real motivation to keep any of that stuff. That is worst case scenario for us. So Plessy versus Ferguson, that one is one to be concerned about too, because we had the referendum on non-citizens voting. Plessy versus Ferguson says if you're not an original European settler in this country, you've never been a citizen, and if you're descended from someone who is not original to this country, you should never have the right to vote. Plessy versus Ferguson was basically a slave that came up north with his master for 4 years and lived free because he came to Wisconsin, how ironically. And then when they returned him back to the South, he was a slave again. He was like, well, no, I'm going to sue for my freedom because I got a chance to be free for 4 years. I should be free. I should be free in the South, even though I'm not in the North where there's no slavery, because I tasted freedom in the North. You can't put me back in bondage because slavery sucks once you taste freedom. And the 7-2 Supreme Court decision, which is Plessy versus Ferguson, said basically, N-word, you're always going to be a slave and you have no rights that any white man should ever respect, and you're never going to be a citizen. Now, most states would say, no, that's not fair. Black people and those descended from slaves, they're always going to be citizens. They have birthright citizenship. But there's some states that are going to say, maybe blacks shouldn't have birthright citizenship, just like migrants. The whole conversation with the migrants is a proxy for, can any unnatural American ever be considered a real citizen? There are some states that'll say, oh, yeah, of course, they're citizens. Leave them alone. They're great people. But then there's other states that say, yeah, let's curtail their citizenship just a little bit. Because it wouldn't be just migrants, because they want to make anchor babies non-citizens too. They want to get rid of birthright citizenship. Black people are citizens because we have birthright citizenship. But if they look at our ancestry and where we came from, and they'll say, well, your ancestors were never technically really human beings and really citizens. Anyone descended from them are not citizens or human beings either. And that was a real Supreme Court decision. And that bar to overturn that, Plessy versus Ferguson, is a lower bar than Dobbs. So they already have the formula to how they can screw over a large constituency in this country. And here's what's crazy. That largest constituency in this country, white women, still voted 52% for Donald Trump, who is literally their number one and main oppressor. I thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. And I'm sure as time goes on, we will have more conversations on the Crestfallen United States. Jammin' with Juice is up next.
The Milwaukee Panthers hit the road Thursday night as they travel to Iowa to take on the Northern Iowa Panthers.
Jump pass for Polian left of the circle. Tries to answer and does. It's pure. A bomb from KP. He's got 15. Cleared by Calvin. Forecourt holding. He'll lob it up. Noel will send it down.